Chapter 12:10. Qin Youjiao felt like a mouthful of blood had accumulated in her chest and she was extremely frustrated. First, Bei Yunj had humiliated her in public. Then Song Yao had grabbed her weakness and stabbed her in the heart. She did not know how much Song Yao knew, but Cheng Zihuai was her trump card. She could not let Cheng Zihuai distrust her. Song Yao, you'll regret it. Qin Youjiao gritted her teeth, her expression fierce. Song Yao's lips curved and she tidied Qin Youjiao's hair, not being biased at all. Really? Miss Qin's dress is really pretty. The feeling of her fist hitting cotton made Qin Youjiao grit her teeth in hatred. However, Zheng Su only regained his senses when he saw Qin Youjiao leave angrily. None of Miss Pei's friends were easy to deal with. Zheng Su had been with Huishidu for so long, so of course he could see through Qin Youjiao's tricks. However, he did not expect Song Yao to make a move. However, this move indeed made Zheng Su understand why Bei Yunj and Song Yao could become friends. One was openly arrogant and specialized in hitting people where it hurt. The other was gentle and deadly. Zheng Su broke out in cold sweat. Good lord, none of them were good people. At the banquet, Tiantian, where did you go? Lu Yuanxi said smoothly. Song Yao said, I went to touch up my makeup. Hearing this address, Bei Yunj glanced at Lu Yuanxi faintly, but did not say anything. Master Pei, why are you unhappy at the banquet? Lu Yuanxi asked. Bei Yunj said calmly, there are still 4 days before school starts. Are you very happy? Lu Yuanxi and the others were speechless. It turned out that the big boss also had such a simple problem. Only Song Yao glanced at Bei Yunj when she heard this. She only asked after Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing ran to play games with the other students. Because of your brother? Bei Yunj bit a grape and said slowly, School was about to start, so why didn't Huishidu have any reaction? Can't wait? Song Yao could not help teasing. Bei Yunj said slowly, not really. I just want to trick him first. She couldn't wait any longer. She knew that it was best for her to cooperate with the treatment and tell Huishidu about her problem. But Bei Yunj was also a little scared. She was afraid that Huishidu would hesitate if he knew. She was afraid that he would not be able to wait for her to recover completely. She was also afraid that Huishidu would think that she was trouble and treat her as a strange person like those people. He was even more afraid that one day she would really be unable to control her emotions and do something, but she still wanted him. It was Song Yao's first time seeing this person not confident. She couldn't help but smile. I don't know if you have no confidence in yourself or in him. Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and glanced at Huishidu before walking towards Yu Jilin. I'll go look for a friend first. Okay, Song Yao replied. At this very moment, Yu Jilin was on the phone outside. Why are you looking for me? Luoxia insisted. Whose banquet are you attending? Your goddess, are you happy now? Yu Jilin didn't hide it. Alright, I'll hang up first. Go play by yourself. Anyway, he didn't tell anyone that he was attending Bei Yunj's banquet. After hanging up the call, Yu Jilin did not expect to see Bei Yunj. Miss Pei, I have something to talk to you about. Bei Yunj glanced at him. The two of them were chatting in the corridor and did not notice Luoxia not far away. Luoxia was stunned. This was a banquet? Chapter 12:11. The unclear memories in Luoxia's mind suddenly became clear. He froze and remembered that at K University, when the hackers attacked the system, Bei Yunj was walking around with the computer. Later on, when he went to look for Nancy, the candy on Nancy's laboratory table was also prepared by Huishidu for Bei Yunj. And this time in Yunqing he had seen Yu Jilin, who was helping with the treatment, with his own eyes. He had walked with Bei Yunj more than once. So, it was Bei Yunj? Luoxia's pupils constricted and he subconsciously muttered to himself, impossible. How could a new scientific researcher who had won an international award be a girl in her early 20s? After Luoxia came back to his senses, he saw Zhou Yu in the courtyard. He immediately grabbed his arm and walked into a dark corner. He asked impatiently, who is Bei Yunj? Zhou Yu was shocked. Why are you here? Let me ask you, is Bei Yunj? Luoxia's hands were trembling. He didn't know if he was nervous or afraid. Zhou Yu's gaze swept to the man who was smoking on the second floor before he regained his senses. Yes, Dr. Luo. Master Du had long known that Bei Yunj was Bei Yunj. Otherwise, the scientific research community would not have really hidden this secret for Bei Yunj. Luoxia thought of what he had said in front of Bei Yunj and his murderous intent disappeared. He gritted his teeth. Why didn't you say so earlier? This was a secret to begin with. Zhou Yu said confidently. Also, Master Du has been giving you a chance. You were the one who despised Miss Pei and dealt with the matter. Luoxia, Luoxia turned around and saw the man on the second floor tapping away the cigarette ash with his fingertips. He raised his eyebrows and looked at him casually. Luoxia took a deep breath. He knew that it was definitely not a coincidence that he had accidentally learned this secret this time. Huashidu had calculated the path for him to take. Your master's really good. Luoxia was so angry that he almost couldn't speak. His voice was hoarse. Zhou Yu, what could he do? Is this the first day you met him? Luoxia walked upstairs angrily. His face was extremely dark. It was obvious that he was looking for trouble. Huashidu, are you still? Could he still be human? However, in the next second, before Luoxia could finish speaking, he saw Pei Yunj looking at him coldly. Luoxia's face was full of vulgarities. Dr. Luo, this is my place. Who are you looking for trouble with? Bei Yunj asked with a faint smile, blatantly protecting the man behind her. Luo glanced sideways at the man behind Bei Yunj and raised his eyebrows lazily at him. A mouthful of blood was stuck in his throat. What a dog. Is he even human? Yun, Luoxia should be looking for me. The corners of Huashidu's lips curled up. He calmly scratched Bei Yunj's chin as if he was coaxing her. When Luoxia saw this scene, his brain froze. His goddess had been abducted by his brother just like that. Then go home early. Don't drink, Bei Yunj reminded her. Okay. Luoxia was expressionless when he saw that the two of them were as unrestrained as usual. After Bei Yunj left, Luoxia took a deep breath. Huashidu, you're really good. I was fooled by you. I didn't intend to fool you. Huashidu said calmly, she didn't want you to know. Then you're deliberately letting me know now? Huashidu bit the cigarette and took a puff. He blew out a beautiful smoke ring and said unhurriedly, there's something wrong with the way your little junior brother looks at my child. Chapter 12:12. Then, Huashidu casually put out the cigarette in his hand. It's good that you two are restraining each other. He raised his eyes. Besides, aren't you more professional? A professional doctor wouldn't have any thoughts about a patient, right? Luoxia. He had already dealt with him at the root, so he was placed by Bei Yunj's side. Luoxia took a deep breath. When he thought of what he had said to Bei Yunj, he wished he could beat himself to death. Don't be sad. Hearing the man suddenly speak after a moment of silence, Luoxia thought that Huashidu wanted to comfort him, so he looked up at him. However, he did not expect to hear Huashidu say unhurriedly, no matter what, you don't have a chance. Luoxia, why did he expect Huashidu to be a human? A few days later, Yun University officially started school. However, Yun University also had a tradition that freshmen had to stay in the main school. As a result, Bei Yunj, who had never stayed in school before, was a little uncomfortable. However, looking at Huashidu's behavior during this summer vacation, Bei Yunj felt inexplicably unhappy. Are you sure you don't have anything to tell me? In the car, Bei Yunj asked. Even Seng Su felt a chill run down his spine as he lowered his head and lowered his head. As expected, he looked up and saw Bei Yunj's expression that said, aren't you King coaxing me? He then turned to look at Huashidu. His Master Du's originally cold peach blossom eyes were now smiling affectionately. No matter how he looked at it, he had an expression that said, my child is so cute. Seng Su. He didn't understand. He really didn't understand what kind of special interest this was. Do you have to stay in the main school? The man licked his lips and whispered into her ear. Yes. Bei Yunj leaned lazily against the car window. We can't be special, right? Seng Su lowered his head silently, but he thought to himself, haven't you been special enough? Who knew? The man asked slowly, what about the family members? Can't they stay with them? Bei Yunj. Your university stays with them? Brother went to Neely University. There's no such rule. Bei Yunj. After getting out of the car, Bei Yunj suddenly tugged at the edge of the man's suit jacket, revealing the man's white shirt underneath. Huashidu also bent down obediently and listened to her tiptoe. He blew into her ear and asked, didn't brother say that everything will be mine if I do well? Brother, don't you know what I want? The man, who had always been lazy and abstinent, had his pale pupils congealed at this moment. The soft and greasy hot breath by her ear made her Adam's apple tighten. Brother, I'm already 20. I've already grown up. This ambiguous and playful sentence almost destroyed Huashidu's rationality for more than 20 years. This kid did it on purpose. She had the guts to talk to him like that. The next moment, Bei Yunj let go of her hand, pulled open the handle of her suitcase and prepared to leave. Tsing Su immediately stopped her. Miss, there's no elevator. Master Du and I will send you up. No need, I can do it myself. Bei Yunj glanced at the gazes gathered around her. The man had never kept a low profile. The extended black luxury car made passers-by unable to help but take a few more glances. Fortunately it was Huashidu. If this did not stop Qin Yu and Qin Lang, those two hot faces would make it impossible for her to live a good life in school. Brother, see you during the holidays. Huashidu looked at Bei Yunj and felt that this child was up to something. After they left, Huashidu sat back in the car and slowly let out a breath of foul air. How are the preparations going? Chapter 12-13. It'll take another half a month. Tsing Su said carefully. Huashidu turned the expensive watch on his wrist carelessly. Thinking of how the girl had leaned close to him just now, that faint fragrance made it difficult for him to control himself. It burned his heart that had calmed down for a long time. Born in a prestigious family like the Hua family, Huashidu had seen a lot of ugliness and obsession in the industry since he was young. However, his natural coldness and the Hua family's innate upbringing made men accept the secular world, but they also scoffed at things like lust. But now what was growing crazily in his mind was the desire he had once scoffed at. Especially when Bei Yunj said, I'm 20 years old. I've already grown up. The moment Huashidu closed his eyes, he recalled the scene of Bei Yunj going downstairs to drink water in her white pajamas. Her fair and slender legs were swaying. The man opened his eyes unhurriedly. His pale-colored pupils were unfathomable, but he chuckled hoarsely. This child had done it on purpose. She had only teased him on purpose when she left. At Yun University. The sound of cicadas under the scorching sun and the green trees made people's mood brighten. Bei Yunj, on the other hand, pursed her red lips. She was wearing a black mask and a face mask, but her back view attracted people's attention. The senior at the freshman reception had sharp eyes. When he saw Bei Yunj, he immediately ran over. Junior, which faculty are you from? Bei Yunj regained her senses and took out her notice to look at it. Physics department. The senior was speechless. What kind of immortal was this? Did she only know which faculty she was from when school started? What a coincidence, I'm from this faculty too. I got in with 734 marks back then. What about you, Junior? The senior looked up and said proudly. Only then did he realize that Bei Yunj's pretty eyes were looking at him emotionlessly. Come, let's sign for our faculty? Bei Yunj hummed faintly and followed the cue to sign, ignoring the discussions around her. There was nothing else to talk about. They were just wondering if Bei Yunj, who was wearing a mask and a hat, would be a great beauty. Then they talked about Qin Yojiao from the music faculty next door. She was probably the new campus belle of Yun University. Damn, 735 points? This year's college entrance exam is famous for being tormented. Top student, top student. The senior who was in charge of signing autographs couldn't help but sigh. Brainiac didn't smile. Just so. In a top-notch institution like Yun University, everyone had a faint sense of anticipation. They also knew that everyone here would have good results. However, Bei Yunj turned his head and stared straight at Song Yao, who was queuing in the philosophy department. He did not hear anyone's conversation. What's going on? Why did this young lady keep staring at the new department belle from the philosophy department next door? Could it be that there's a grudge between them? A few of the seniors felt that the following plot might be very exciting. Could it be another love rival drama between the ex and the current one? Next. Bei Yunj retracted her gaze and walked to the registration form to fill in her name. Junior sister, how was your college entrance exam? How many points? Just so. Bei Yunj did not mention the results. Instead, he quickly wrote down his name, collected his things, and walked towards the philosophy department. Hearing this, the senior thought that she had gotten in because she was too embarrassed to say it, so he did not ask. However, the more he looked at the name, the more familiar it looked. Bei Yunj. Have you heard of this somewhere before? The senior beside her, who had felt Bei Yunj's cold aura, did not plan to continue talking to her. He said numbly, where have I heard of it? She's this year's top scholar. Top scholar? End of chapter. Chapter 12-14. The senior stood up suddenly and saw their college entrance examination top scholar suddenly hug the gentle-looking but indifferent philosophy department belle from behind. Why did the scene look so orangey? That's the college entrance examination top scholar? After the seniors regained their senses, they stood up abruptly. Previously, in the office, They had heard the computing department boast that the top scholar would definitely enter their department. They did not expect the top scholar to enter their physics department? At this moment, just as they thought that the gentle and distant philosophy department bell would push away their department's top scholar, they saw the department bell turn around and take off Bei Yunzhi's black mask. They could not see the big boss's true face clearly, but that extremely beautiful face made them feel like they had been struck by a god from 10 meters away. How could the college entrance examination top scholar look like this? The creator was too unfair. Is our department going to have a school bell? The senior asked in a daze. I think so. Bei Yunzhi saw that Song Yao's face was red from the sun and the tip of her nose was sweating. He took off his hat and covered her head as if there was no one else around. No, you wear it. Song Yao refused. I have an umbrella in my bag. Bei Yunzhi gestured for her to open her bag. So, the surrounding Yun University students saw the subtle intimacy between their school bell and department bell. Were there too many useless things in their minds? Song Yao opened the umbrella again and Bei Yunzhi naturally scooped something into her pocket. After taking the candy he ate it. Are you a robber? Song Yao asked from the bottom of her heart. Bei Yunzhi maintained her composure. She was so good that she had forgotten herself. Did I steal your heart? Song Yao was speechless. The senior who handed out the information sheet also heard the dirty words. What the hell was this? Bei Yunzhi liked to tease Song Yao very much. Seeing her expression that said, I'm numb, it was much more pleasing to the eye than her usual docile face. However, she did not expect that her shameless words would cause thousands of posts on the school's forum. Later, even Huashidu found out about it. On the way, Bei Yunzhi and Song Yao returned to the dormitory together. They were originally in a good mood. But later, she found out that she and Song Yao were not in the same dormitory. Why are you on the 5th floor? Bei Yunzhi asked. Song Yao said, the philosophy department is on the 5th floor. Bei Yunzhi. Then why am I on the 4th floor? The physics department should be on the 4th floor. Song Yao thought that Bei Yunzhi was unhappy and told her that she would accompany her to the canteen for dinner after tidying up the dormitory. This was the first time Bei Yunzhi had to suffer in silence. She did not tell Song Yao that before school started, she had hacked the school's website and changed her dormitory. However, Si Qingyan probably found out and changed it back. Bei Yunzhi felt that Li Siqing's behavior was inappropriate. Very good. However, she had no choice but to follow the arrangement and head to her own dormitory. 409. Haining, you're amazing. You actually scored 739 points in the college entrance exam. A girl praised. The girl who was praised smiled. No, there are bonus points for the college entrance exam. Su Xianing, who was playing games, was expressionless and could not be bothered to respond to such meaningless words. But you're the one with the highest score in our physics department, right? Haining chuckled. How is that possible? With that said, the door was suddenly pushed open. Bei Yunzhi was still thinking about Si Qingyan and did not release the cold aura on her, so she was caught off guard and met her roommates. End of this chapter. Chapter 12-15. Seeing Bei Yunzhi's cold aura, fear inexplicably appeared in the eyes of the others. However, Bei Yunzhi glanced at the 4 people who had arrived and greeted them casually. Hello. Bei Yunzhi was not good at interacting with people and did not like meaningless socializing. In the eyes of others, he was indeed not easy to get close to. Even Song Yao had sent him camellia cakes for a week or two. Bei Yunzhi could not help but go over and ask, don't you have anything to eat today? Song Yao had also thought that Bei Yunzhi looked like the ragdoll cat she had raised in the past, so she could not help but hit on Bei Yunzhi. Hello, my name is Du Mingting. My name is Hai Ning. When Su Xianing saw Bei Yunzhi, she was in disbelief. Why did you choose physics? When Bei Yunzhi saw Su Xianing, he remembered this girl's golden words. If I meet you at Yun University in the future, I will still report you. How shameless of you to get someone to do your homework for you. Bei Yunzhi lazily placed his luggage in front of him and asked casually, it can't be because of you, right? Su Xianing's face distorted and she was so angry that she wanted to say something but stopped herself. *CK, why did she bump into this person everywhere? Was she haunting her? Do you know each other? Du Mingting asked. Hai Ning maintained her smile and did not speak. However, Su Xianing laughed coldly and mocked, who doesn't know this year's college entrance examination top scholar? With that said, even the classmate who was already lying on the bed beside her rolled over and got up to see the face of this year's college entrance examination top scholar. The college entrance examination top scholar. It was one thing to have a high IQ, but wasn't it too much to look like this with a high IQ? I think so. Bei Yunj tidied up the bed. These words made Hai Ning's smile freeze. However, she was not sure how many points this year's college entrance examination top scholar had and how much higher she was than her. How many points did you get in the college entrance examination? Her roommate continued to ask. Su Xianing interrupted faintly, 749. When Su Xianing found out about this, she had mixed feelings. This bad student who had asked Song Yao to do her homework for her had actually become the national college entrance examination top scholar. In an instant, the dormitory fell silent. This was due respect to the top scholar of the college entrance examination. How did he do it? Only 1 mark was deducted from the essay? Bei Yunj answered truthfully, I wrote 100 words short in my essay. Everyone else? Wasn't this too arrogant? Was this the confidence of a big shot? I remember my teacher saying that 12 years ago, there was a big shot in another province who would deduct points if he wrote 100 words less. But our province is so strict and we can only deduct 1 point. The student on the bed gasped and felt his scalp go numb. Those who entered Yun University had the arrogance of a top student. However, this was a big shot contestant who dominated the college entrance examination this year. Who would want to show their presence in front of this person? Only Hai Ning pursed her lips and glanced at Bei Yunj with an unsightly expression. She felt an inexplicable sense of injustice. Then let's go downstairs together later. Du Mingting suggested enthusiastically. Suddenly, Bei Yunj's cell phone rang in her pocket. Bei Yunj glanced at the note and said casually, You guys go ahead. I have something to do. With that said, Bei Yunj walked out. Only the 4 of them were left with different thoughts. She was absent from her first dormitory activity? She's the college entrance examination top scholar. She doesn't want to play with us. The girl on the bed sneered. Unexpectedly, Su Xianing, who did not speak much, sneered. Only cows and sheep gather in groups. I have something to do too. Chapter 12:16. Hearing this, the expressions of those who were discussing changed. After Su Xianing left, she gritted her teeth and sneered. What are you so arrogant for? At first, when they saw that Su Xianing had been cold to Bei Yunj, they thought that Su Xianing had a bad relationship with Bei Yunj. However, they did not expect Su Xianing to speak up for Bei Yunj. However, Hai Ning smiled and said to them, Oh right, I brought you some gifts. Don't mind them. With that said, Hai Ning gave each of them a box of chocolates, while Du Mingting's eyes lit up. This chocolate is very expensive. The market price in the country is close to 10,000 yuan. Hai Ning, you're too polite. The other roommates instantly warmed up and looked at her with envy. She casually had a few boxes of chocolates that were close to 10,000 yuan. No matter how they looked at it, she was a rich young lady. Hai Ning smiled calmly. You're welcome. I usually like to eat this brand. Then Hai Ning's eyes darkened and she placed a box on Bei Yunj's table. Because of this box of chocolates, the roommates started to talk to Hai Ning about everything. In the School of Computing. Why did you call me? Bei Yunj asked. Si Qingyan rubbed his hands and could not help but hint crazily, Master Pei, when are you coming to my laboratory to play? I'm not free. What? He had waited so long. It was not easy for this little ancestor to go to university, but she was telling him that she was not free. I also want to know why Song Yao and I are not in the same dormitory. Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow and stared at him. Hearing this, Si Qingyan instantly felt guilty. He was indeed the one who did this. Si Qingyan had a feeling that Bei Yunj was not so well behaved, so he specially checked the dormitory list before school started. Si Qingyan explained, Yunj, there are exactly 18 people in the philosophy department, so there are 3 dormitories. You're from the physics department. Isn't it too obvious to squeeze people out? Those who didn't know better would think that Yun University was behind this. Don't be angry. How about I treat you to a meal? Si Qingyan took out his faculty card and said generously. Those who didn't know better would think that he was going to treat Bei Yunj to a 5-star restaurant. Bei Yunj was speechless. Alright, why are you studying physics? Are you going to change your career? Si Qingyan finally remembered. Bei Yunj said casually, Old master made the decision. It doesn't matter what I learn. Si Qingyan was speechless. To this big shot in front of him, it was indeed the same no matter what he learned. After all, it was just in name, and the school had specially approved that he did not need to attend classes. The other professors couldn't teach her anything. The cafeteria. Anyway, it was Si Qingyan's treat, so Bei Yunj called Song Yao out. Yun University's cafeteria was famous for its delicious food, so Bei Yunj never complained about having too much. However, when everyone saw that Professor Si Qingyan, who usually didn't appear with the students, was actually carrying plates beside the two girls, they couldn't help but take a few more glances. Why did Professor Si seem to be eating with two freshmen? After all, he was a famous good-looking professor in Yun University. Everyone couldn't help but take a second look at him. The discussion on Chieba was also going crazy. F***CK, 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 why is our Yun University's high and mighty Professor Si together with two female freshmen? Danger warning. I saw it too. It's in the cafeteria. One of them was Song Yao. Popular starlet Song Yao. Professor Si can't possibly like students, right? No way, no way, there's no need to be anxious upstairs. Go next door and take a look at the two freshman couple posts. They've already posted a few hundred posts. I think Yun University is the top couple. What are you thinking about? Someone has already exposed it. The college entrance examination top scholar and the department belle have a very good and stable relationship since high school. The college entrance examination top scholar? The newbie king of 749? End of this chapter. Chapter 12-17. I'm crying. I worked so hard to be in the same school as Sister Yao, but in the end, I saw her coupling with someone? Let's go and take a look at the school bells forum next door. Originally, Song Yao and Qin Youjiao were popular, but the moment the new king entered the school, the votes skyrocketed. She directly suppressed the other young ladies and made them the department belle. As expected of the official match of Sister Yao. The new king is heaven-defying. Do you need me to talk about the new king for everyone? The fourth heir of the Qin family, Qin Yu and Qin Lang's biological sister, has known Sister Yao since high school. I'll secretly add candy. The female lead of Qin Yu's new MV is Sister Yao. They knew each other since high school. No wonder the new king hugged her waist the moment she came up. He's crazy. The people who were still discussing Professor Si were instantly brought into the CP pit. Room 409. The few of them were still gossiping when suddenly someone knocked on the door. The moment Du Mingting opened the door, she saw a familiar senior. Hello, I'm Wei Jinmin. Wei Jinmin? The head of the publicity department of the student union? The girl on the bed immediately walked down and said excitedly, Senior Wei, I'm Chao Yingying from the physics department. Hello. Wei Jinmin smiled, and the others immediately looked at Hai Ning. Hai Ning, is senior sister here to look for you? Du Mingting teased. Hai Ning was also surprised. She grabbed her skirt nervously, but she could not help but smile in her heart. I don't think so. Hai Ning had heard of the name Wei Jinmin before. She was the eldest young lady of the Wei Corporation and had many connections in school and society. Reality had proven that one of the benefits of university was connections, such as the classmates around her. Hai Ning also wanted to use this opportunity to get to know this senior, but she did not expect Wei Jinmin to come looking for her on the first day of school. Before Hai Ning could be happy, she heard Wei Jinmin ask, Bei Yun should be from your dormitory, right? Instantly. The atmosphere was silent and it was a little awkward. Hai Ning's smile froze. Senior Wei, are you here to look for Bei Yunj? Chao Yingying also said, Senior, she's not in the dormitory. Wei Jinmin said with a smile, I know. She and Song Yao are eating with Professor Si in the canteen. Professor Si doesn't like to be disturbed when he's eating, so I'm here to submit an application form. When Bei Yunj comes back, can you help me tell her? I hope she can join the publicity department. Hai Ning and the others didn't look too good. Professor Si? Professor Si Qingyan from the computer science department? But how did Bei Yunj know someone like that? After Wei Jinmin left, Chao Yingying sat on the chair and could not help but complain angrily. What roommates? He ate with Professor Si and didn't bring Song Yao along. No wonder he's not willing to eat with us. He thinks we're troublesome. Chao Yingying looked at Hai Ning. Hai Ning, you are too kind. You are giving chocolate to such a person? Hai Ning just smiled, her heart unable to calm down. Where did Bei Yunj's connections come from? Song Yao and Si Qingyan knew each other. After Bei Yunj finished dinner, she was shamelessly dragged to the laboratory by Si Qingyan. She helped him until around 9 o'clock before it was completely over. However, she did not expect that when she returned to the dormitory, the door was locked and the key was useless. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and a dark look flashed past her eyes. In the end, she walked to the 5th floor very naturally. The next day, The girl from the philosophy department almost went crazy when she saw Song Yao get out of bed and there was still movement under the blanket. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:18. Wasn't their department's bell too awesome? There was someone on the bed? The others were frightened, afraid that Song Yao was a boy under the blanket. However, when they saw the long hair exposed under the blanket, they heaved a sigh of relief. I'll go buy breakfast. Get up quickly. Song Yao tied her hair up and went out to buy food after washing up. The other roommates looked down. 10 minutes later, they saw a fair and slender hand reaching out and holding the bed railing lightly as she walked down slowly. When Bei Yunj slept, she only wore a black singlet. When she got up, she casually put on a white cotton shirt that was so thin that it was almost transparent. After she got out of bed, she sat on Song Yao's seat with her clothes in a mess. The girl's eyes were slightly red, and when she raised her charming eyes, she was so lazy that it made people blush. She felt that something had happened last night. When Bei Yunj saw Song Yao and her roommates looking at her, she said hoarsely, "Hello." Hello. Why did she feel that the couple post in school was strangely real? The top scholar of the college entrance examination came to their dormitory to sleep with Song Yao on the first day. Bei Yunj actually did not sleep the entire night. There was no Huashidu scent, nor was there that stupid bear she had personally sent over. Her old habit had acted up again. However, Bei Yunj did not have the habit of troubling others. Seeing that the lights in her dormitory were switched off, she simply came up to look for Song Yao. When Song Yao came back with breakfast, the people in the dormitory were flattered. After eating some, Song Yao suggested going to her dormitory with Bei Yunj to take a look. Dormitory 409. Su Xianing saw Bei Yunj with Song Yao and laughed coldly. It's your first day and you're sleeping in someone else's dormitory. Isn't Song Yao's dormitory more fragrant? Song Yao and Su Xianing did not have a good relationship and had never eased up. Your dormitory was locked from the inside yesterday, Song Yao said calmly. Su Xianing frowned. How is that possible? I was the last to return to the dormitory. I didn't lock it. Hearing this, Song Yao's eyes swept over the others. Seeing a trace of panic flash past Chao Yingying's eyes, she immediately understood. Maybe someone was careless. Song Yao finished speaking as if nothing had happened, and Chao Yingying heaved a sigh of relief. When Chao Yingying saw Haining walk in, she quickly smiled and said, Bei Yunj, Haining brought you some chocolate. It's on your table. It's worth more than 10,000 yuan. Yes, thank you. Bei Yunj glanced at the chocolate on the table and hummed in response. Then she placed the snacks Song Yao had bought for her on the table. Haining casually glanced at the snacks. They were all cheap goods from convenience stores. The smile on her face deepened. Haining, why is the dean looking for you so early in the morning? Du Mingting asked. Haining couldn't hide the joy in her eyes. She couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj. Let me speak as the representative of the freshmen. I thought that the director would think that you're the freshman representative, Yunj. Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow and didn't say anything else. Congratulations. Everyone else. Yesterday in the laboratory, Bei Yunj had even rejected the representative of Yunqing University from the International Academic Conference. How could Si Qingyan be stupid enough to ask Bei Yunj if she wanted to be the freshman representative? Chao Yingying looked down on Bei Yunj's perfunctory attitude and said with a meaningful smile, people who feel uncomfortable because of this are too petty. Song Yao suddenly looked at her as if she had seen through all her unbearable thoughts. Her eyes were still gentle. Yes, who knows what someone will do if they feel uncomfortable. Chao Yingying's face was livid, but she was speechless. Chapter 12:19. Song Yao's gentle and smiling gaze made Chao Yingying feel uncomfortable. She felt that she seemed to know something. Bei Yunj glanced at Chao Yingying casually and suddenly remembered the chocolates on the table. She took out a stack of tickets from her book and placed it on Haining's table. She said carelessly, I happen to have a few tickets for the competition. I'll give them to you. With that said, Bei Yunj left with Song Yao. I really have to hand it to this kind of person. She exchanged your box of chocolates for a few hundred tickets? Chao Yingying mocked. She glanced at the game tickets and didn't think they were worth much. Bei Yunj was clearly taking advantage of her. Su Xianing glanced at the tickets and chuckled. The VIP tickets for the Maps of the Gods summer competition are priceless. A few days ago my friend got the tickets through a scalper. It's 27,000 yuan per ticket. With that said, Chao Yingying's expression froze and her eyes landed on the stack of tickets again. Du Mingting was shocked. 27,000 yuan per ticket? Was he crazy? It was not new for scalpers to raise the ticket prices, but she did not expect the tickets to be so expensive. Even Hai Ning's expression changed and she looked at the stack of tickets instinctively. There were at least 10 tickets in Bei Yunji's stack. Su Xianing glanced at Chao Yingying. Don't provoke her for no reason. If you get taught a lesson one day you won't even have a place to cry. Bei Yunji was not someone with a good temper. If they really annoyed her, this group of people would at least lose a layer of skin. Hai Ning composed herself and thought to herself that Bei Yunji might be a little rich, but in Yun University she was the one who would be the center of attention. She glanced at the freshman's speech, heaved a sigh of relief and started reading again. The freshman's speech of Yun University was more international. It was a bilingual speech, so there was a lot of content. And Hai Ning had to bite this hard bone before tomorrow's speech. In the past, it was always the foreign language department or the top scholar of the college entrance examination who gave the speech, but this year the slot was given to the physics department. Therefore she could not let others look down on her. The next day, Hai Ning changed into her uniform and stood by the rostrum in high spirits. She heard people discussing the freshman representative's speech. That freshman representative must be very powerful. That's for sure. Every freshman representative is a big shot. Hearing these discussions, Hai Ning's mood relaxed. She even found Bei Yunji in the crowd, and the smile on her face deepened. But in the next moment, the discordant voice made Hai Ning's face change. Can't the freshman representatives give an off-script speech? The person who spoke was the new student who got second place in the national examination. He was not convinced that Hai Ning was the representative of the new students. Wei Jinmin had an awkward look on her face. Indeed, some teachers had suggested that the freshman representatives give an off-script speech, but this was too difficult. She was also afraid that she wouldn't be able to wrap things up when the time came. After all, Yun University's freshman speech was trending and on the news every year. Unexpectedly, Cheng Zihuai, who was in charge of the event, also asked calmly, "Can't we go off-script? If she makes a fool of herself, she'll be on the news." Wei Jinmin lowered her voice and said, "So I just want her to be more familiar with it." Is this the standard of this batch of freshmen? Another senior from the student union also crossed her arms and said in a sarcastic tone. But in reality, the freshman representative of Yun University had never gone off script. After all, it was a bilingual speech. Hai Ning's face was ugly. She clenched her fists and listened to the sarcasm around her. Her eyes fell on Bei Yunji, who was laughing. She hid her gloominess and said with a smile, "I can go off script in Chinese, but I'm not very good at foreign languages. Why don't you find someone who scored full marks in foreign languages to give a speech with me?" End of chapter. Chapter 12-20. Hai Ning made up her mind. Even if she was going to embarrass herself, she would drag someone down with her. The second-ranked freshman did not speak. His foreign language skills were indeed not good. But even if you scored full marks for the foreign language paper, you can't go off script at the last minute. Wei Jinmin frowned. Hai Ning smiled and said, "I can go off script one paragraph at a time. My partner only needs to translate. Don't worry, I won't say too much at once." Are there any freshmen who scored full marks for the foreign language paper this year? With that said, even the person who spoke suddenly thought of this year's college entrance examination top scholar. He was a true genius, the new king of the top students. Then go and find Bei Yunji from the physics department. Wei Jinmin was sent to find Bei Yunji, while Hai Ning was carrying a script, unable to hide the ridicule and laughter in her eyes. The second-ranked freshman looked at Hai Ning for a while and said sarcastically, "Hai Ning, you really know how to do things by pulling that top scholar along at this time." How could he not tell that Hai Ning wanted to find a scapegoat? Bei Yunji was still sitting behind Song Yao, watching Song Yao talk to her roommate. She played with Song Yao's hair for a while. Seeing that Song Yao was ignoring her, she raised her beautiful neck and leaned back. "I'm going to make a fuss, Tian Tian." Song Yao was speechless. Song Yao's roommate, who had a good relationship with Bei Yunji, said, "Brother, I'm still listening." Was he so blatantly looking down on her existence? It's good that you heard it. A certain Pei closed his eyes lazily and raised his eyebrows at his imaginary enemy. Song Yao's roommate was speechless. She did not expect to be so childish when arguing with a big boss. However, this big boss's temper was much better than she had imagined. As long as she bought food for Song Yao, Bei Yunji would bring her some. Suddenly, they saw senior Wei Jinmin, who was very famous in school, running to Bei Yunji panting. "Junior, help. What's wrong?" Bei Yunj took off her hat and looked at Wei Jinmin. It's just that, everyone wanted the freshman to give a bilingual speech at the last minute, but Hai Ning can't memorize that foreign language speech and wants you to help translate it. The moment Wei Jinmin finished speaking, Song Yao's originally gentle voice suddenly turned cold. Help translate? Senior sister, don't tell me you don't know how difficult it is to translate Yun University's bilingual speech? Are you treating Yunj as an artificial intelligence by asking her to translate temporarily? It was her first time seeing Song Yao's gentle eyes filled with coldness. Wei Jinmin was terrified instantly. Everyone was afraid of making a fool of themselves, but the actions of these people were nothing more than roasting Bei Yunj on the fire. Hai Ning agreed. She's going off script one paragraph at a time. As long as Yunj translates it simply, there's no need for her to read too much, Wei Jinmin said. Bei Yunj played with her black hair. After a while, just when Wei Jinmin thought that Bei Yunj would not agree, the corners of Bei Yunj's eyes suddenly curled up. She licked her lips and said, "Sure, but I also have a request. I want to see if you can help me with it." Wei Jinmin, what request? Someone pulled Song Yao and me into the student union and helped us block it. Bei Yunj's casual words made the corners of Wei Jinmin's lips twitch. Wasn't this request too ruthless? Who wasn't eyeing this year's newcomer king covetously? Wei Jinmin took a deep breath. Okay. Song Yao said, "Yunj, the speech is trending." You? Bei Yunj smirked and rubbed Song Yao's head before leaving. It's fine. Wait for me to come back. Chapter 12:21. Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj's back view, wanting to say something but hesitating. In the end, she could only purse her lips and remain silent. Bei Yunj changed into Yun University's uniform backstage and walked slowly towards Hai Ning and the rest. The second-ranked freshman stared at her and smiled. You're the top scholar in the National College entrance examination? He thought that this person would know when to back down and would not be so stupid to agree to such a thing at the last minute. After all, if she lost face, she would lose face in the country and even internationally. Bei Yunj hummed calmly and was not in a hurry to look at the script. He only poured himself a glass of water and glanced at Hai Ning, who was memorizing the script attentively. Wei Jinmin was about to go crazy when she saw that this man was not anxious at all. Bei Yunj, aren't you going to familiarize yourself with the script first? Why was it that everything that happened to her didn't seem to be in a hurry? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. Do you have a copy for me to see? At this moment, Wei Jinmin and Hai Ning looked at each other and she could not help asking Hai Ning, "Are you sure you can go off script?" Hai Ning suppressed the nervousness in her heart. I can. Bei Yunj glanced at Hai Ning and lowered his head, flipping through the documents on his phone in boredom. Bei Yunj, it's not a small matter to lose face during a speech. The second-ranked freshman could not help reminding her. I know. With Bei Yunj saying this, the rest of the people could not say anything. In the last few minutes, Hai Ning handed the script to Bei Yunj. She relaxed her eyebrows and smiled. Yunj, take a look at the script too. Bei Yunj looked up at her with interest. When their eyes met, Hai Ning immediately turned her head away in a sorry state. She had a feeling that Bei Yunj seemed to know everything. Bei Yunj took the script slowly and glanced at the content carelessly. Seeing this, Hai Ning heaved a sigh of relief and could not help but smile. However, Qing Zihuai looked up at Bei Yunj with a mocking expression. Did he really think that Hai Ning would memorize it completely? Until the freshman ceremony started. Hai Ning and Bei Yunj stood on the podium. The spotlight and livestream cameras landed on them and they had already become the focus of the venue. Especially Bei Yunj's flawless face. Even if she stood lazily at the side, she was still very eye-catching. Song Yao, Bei Yunj is so pretty. Song Yao's roommates were almost becoming fans of Bei Yunj's face. Song Yao was still nervous about Bei Yunj's performance, so she looked up at her absent-mindedly. However, the livestream happened to capture Song Yao's gaze on the stage and the camera followed Song Yao's gaze to Bei Yunj. Down to the up to the end, at the end of the stage, to 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 the stage. The live stream was filled with screams. F***CK, F***CK, Yun University's looks are too good this year. Everyone agrees that Song Yao is pretty. What's wrong with that young lady on stage? What a smile. I'm going to die. Her looks were too outstanding, so much so that when the camera swept past Bei Yunj, no one was in the mood to care about anyone else. Everyone. This is the school bell of Yun University, the top scholar of this year's college entrance examination. Sister-in-law's fans are here. I'm crying for my sister's face again. If my couple's cameraman can control the camera like this, I won't be unable to eat candy? Wait, what sister-in-law? Did I just get online? There were always people who were outside the situation and did not know that the person on stage had once become popular. Chapter 12:22. Friend above, did you cut off the internet a long time ago? The discussion in the live broadcast room didn't last long before Hai Ning began her speech as a freshman representative. Halfway through the speech, Hai Ning stood in front of the aerial camera and was inexplicably nervous. She even changed the script and forgot to pause a long section of the speech. F***ck, why did she change the script? The senior who was proofreading the script almost cursed. Wei Jinmin, who was in the broadcast room, saw Hai Ning read a long section of the speech and couldn't help but feel her scalp tingle. She immediately turned off Hai Ning's microphone. But it was too late now. Hai Ning, who also realized this, also changed her expression. She was already halfway through her speech. But when she came back to her senses, she couldn't help but look sideways at Bei Yunji's reaction. She secretly hoped that Bei Yunji would be flustered next. But then, Bei Yunji just casually pressed down on the microphone in front of her, and the following foreign language speech was extremely smooth and standard. The members of the publicity department gradually relaxed, and their eyes were filled with amazement. F***ck, Hai Ning can change the script at the last minute to such a standard? The senior from the foreign language department couldn't believe it. Wei Jinmin watched Bei Yunji's unhurried speech for a few minutes and finally relaxed. She sat down paralyzed. Fortunately, Bei Yunji is still here. If it were anyone else, they would have been killed by Hai Ning. Hai Ning poured out half of the thousands of words in one go. But she said that she would give a speech section by section, leaving gaps and gaps for Bei Yunji to translate. Wasn't she deliberately harming others? Seeing Bei Yunji's calm side profile, Hai Ning finally came to her senses and couldn't help but shiver. How could this be? She thought that Bei Yunji was relying on her good foreign language skills, so she looked at the script and waited for her to translate section by section. But what was the situation now? Bei Yunji really listened to her change of words at the last minute and could directly translate it on the spot? Or did Bei Yunji secretly look at her speech yesterday? Hai Ning's expression was particularly ugly. When Bei Yunji finished translating, she woke up from her daze and hurriedly continued the next section. However, just as the speech was about to end, Hai Ning, who couldn't concentrate, suddenly got stuck and couldn't remember the next sentence. This attracted the attention of all the teachers and students in the school. The people in the broadcast room were even more dumbfounded. Can Hai Ning do it or not? At this moment, Hai Ning's expression changed as well. Just as her heart turned cold, Bei Yunji, who was beside her, suddenly lowered her lips and took over her speech very naturally. This smooth rescue operation avoided the scene of a car accident. The teachers of Yunhua University, who were used to this kind of scene, couldn't help but look at him with admiration. F***ck, did that girl forget her lines? The top scorer's father's rescue operation is so F***king cool. +1, I can see it too. What kind of god is this? He memorized his own speech and also remembered someone else's? The top scorer's father speaks English so well, and it's so standard. I don't have anything to do. I'm just here to kowtow to the top scorer's father and pray that my monthly exam will go smoothly. Thank you, father. Pass a cigarette to the father of the top scorer, please bless me to pass the exam. At this moment, everyone in the publicity department was so excited that they almost hugged Bei Yunji's leg and called him father. Amazing, this is the strength of the top scorer of the college entrance examination. Everyone couldn't help but sigh and sweat for Hai Ning's forgetfulness. Chapter 12:23. Even the second freshman who had been picking on Hai Ning just now was speechless after seeing it. Bei Yunji had only flipped through the script backstage, but after going on stage she became everyone's reassurance. Not only was she stable, but she could also control the situation and save Hai Ning. Her actions were really amazing. After Bei Yunji's final bilingual speech ended perfectly, the applause below the stage lasted for a long time. At this moment, Hai Ning, who was sweating profusely, finally realized what an embarrassing thing she had done just now. She actually forgot her lines at the last minute? And Bei Yunji saved her? Realizing this fact, Hai Ning's face turned pale and she left the stage with Bei Yunji. Backstage, Wei Jinmin almost couldn't help but hug Bei Yunji enthusiastically. Yunji, you're too amazing. How did you do it? You even remembered Hai Ning's script? Bei Yunji raised an eyebrow and loosened his tie. It's not much, just enough to remember. Instantly the entire venue froze. What kind of hateful memory was this? No wonder this father was slumped on the sofa just now with a, "You called me over to save the situation" look. However, from the way Haining recited backstage just now, everyone could tell that Haining more or less wanted to embarrass Bei Yunj in public. However, when Haining forgot her lines, Bei Yunj still took the school's reputation into consideration. This was really the behavior of a big boss. Haining pursed her lips. "Senior, I'm sorry. Just now, why are you apologizing to me? You should thank Yunj. If she didn't save the situation, who knows what would have happened," Wei Jinmin said with a smile. However, Haining's expression darkened even more. Of course she knew that as a Yun University student, her every move would be magnified. In the eyes of the public, as the freshman representative, as long as she made a small mistake, it would easily cause public opinion. Because Yun University was the top university in the country. Haining took a deep breath. "Bei Yunj, thank you." "You're welcome." Bei Yunj's casual and perfunctory tone made her attitude very clear. She did not intend to maintain a false relationship with anyone. Even the people from the publicity department, who had always been quick-witted and good at making connections, realized that this college entrance examination top scholar was the one who wasn't easy to get along with. Bei Yunj then looked at Wei Jinmin and smiled. "Senior, I'll be depending on you then." Wei Jinmin. Sure enough, it was a case of returning what one borrowed. After Bei Yunj left, the others surrounded Wei Jinmin and asked curiously, "Minister, what did you promise Bei Yunj?" That's right. Does she want to join our publicity department so that you can get her out of the interview?" Wei Jinmin took a deep breath, closed her eyes and put on a fake smile. "She asked me to block the people from the student union. She doesn't want to join any department." Everyone, they had underestimated the boss's insanity. Other people would think of ways to get into the student union, hoping to gain more connections and experience. But this guy was different. He found it annoying. When Haining saw that they were all talking about Bei Yunj, she couldn't catch her breath and left. After the speech, Bei Yunj opened the group chat. Indeed, when she saw that Si Qingyan had recorded a video of her speech and sent it to the group chat, she even sighed. Our family has become successful. She doesn't like the representative of Yun University at the International Academic Conference and went to be the freshman representative. Suddenly, Bei Yunj regretted not choosing Beichuan University back then. P.S. Good night, thank you for your hard work in helping Master Pei hit the rankings. Chapter 12-24. On the other side. Haining had just arrived at the dormitory with red eyes when she locked the bathroom door and cried inside. Everyone could tell that Haining did not perform well this time. Haining, it's just that she didn't perform well this time. Don't worry. Du Mingting frowned at the door. Chao Yingying sneered and said sarcastically, that person performed quite well. She's even a roommate. Why didn't she comfort Haining? Then she said to Haining, Haining, I believe that you will be the most outstanding in our faculty in the future. As soon as she finished speaking, Su Xianing, who was eating an apple, laughed indifferently. What are you laughing at? Chao Yingying's expression changed. Su Xianing pursed her lips coldly and couldn't be bothered with Chao Yingying. She carried her bag and went to the library. Chao Yingying was so angry that she wanted to curse. But the next moment Haining walked out again. Chao Yingying saw Haining's red eyes and immediately comforted her. Haining, what's so great about being the top scholar of the college entrance examination? Isn't she still sitting in the same classroom as you? I believe you can win against her. Then a strange glint flashed across her eyes as she smiled at Haining. Haining, when the class gathers tonight, you have to perform well. Our form teacher is our vice dean. When Haining heard this, her expression gradually improved and she bit her lip again. She wouldn't lose to Bei Yunj every time. At night, during the class meeting, Bei Yunj was still supervising Si Qingyan and giving him advice from time to time. This scene stunned the graduate students who were led by Si Qingyan. What was going on? This junior was a freshman in their school this year? Why did it look like she was leading Professor Si in an experiment? Si Qingyan was checking the data at the side. Bei Yunj looked at the class message and his eyelids twitched. I'm going to the freshman class meeting tonight. The graduate students widened their eyes. She was really a freshman? But did their computer science department have such a capable freshman? I'll apply for leave for you. Si Qingyan did not even look up. Bei Yunj sneered. I'm from your faculty? Si Qingyan, the graduate students? She was really from another faculty? Let's go. Bei Yunj took off her white coat and walked towards the door. The night was as dark as ink. Bei Yunj had just arrived at the teaching building when she suddenly received a message on her phone. Huashidu, in the dormitory? Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. She licked her cheeks and replied slowly. He's not here. What happened? After a while, Bei Yunj saw the man's reply. At the gate of your school. Bei Yunj felt as if something was scratching her heart. I'm in the teaching building. Bei Yunj sent her location. About 7 minutes later, the man replied. Go downstairs. Bei Yunj couldn't help but smile. She lazily propped up her head and read the message. A few minutes later. As soon as Bei Yunj went downstairs, she saw the man in a white shirt and black pants. All eyes were focused on him, but his pale peach blossom eyes were still a little light. He still didn't seem easy to get along with. Bei Yunj heard the discussions of the girls around her and pursed her red lips unconsciously. When she walked in front of the man, Huashidu happened to turn around and tilt his head slightly. He curled his lips. Little classmate, good evening? The man's low voice was very pleasant to the ears, and it was extremely seductive in her ears. Coupled with the man's proactive expression, it was simply cheating. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:25. Bei Yunj, on the other hand, was expressionless. Especially amid the soft and uncontrollable screams around her, she was exceptionally cold. The joy from just now was swept away. Are you unhappy to see me? The man raised his eyebrows and laughed in anger at this heartless child. No. Bei Yunj was still expressionless as she spoke. Huashidu raised his eyebrows and chuckled softly. He scratched her chin and asked, Have you eaten? The people around them almost screamed when they saw this eye-catching scene. What was going on? Their new school belle of Yun University knew this person. No. The corners of Bei Yunj's eyes curled up slightly. She was used to the man's comforting words. Then brother will bring you to eat. Huashidu's words lured her away. Bei Yunj applied for leave from the class meeting and followed Huashidu out of the school gate. At the school gate. When they crossed the road, the man suddenly held Bei Yunj's hand. His wide and dry palm was warm against her palm. For some reason, something in her heart was stirred up. It was just a hand holding in the crowd, and it seemed to be more intimate than before. The crowd at night was still coming and going, but they seemed to have a private and ambiguous feeling. It stimulated their senses and rippled their emotions. Brother, are you here to have a meal with me? For the first time in her life, Bei Yunj could not calm down because of a hand holding. They had held hands before, but it was not like today, where it made her thoughts run wild. The man glanced at her unhurriedly and smiled. I originally wanted to accompany our Yun to walk around the road and enjoy the night breeze before sending our Yun back to the dormitory. Bei Yunj, Huashidu saw that the young lady's ears were red. He hid the smile in his eyes and pretended that nothing had happened. His slender and well-defined fingers gently held the back of her hand, and his deep and magnetic voice sounded in her ear again. As if intentionally or unintentionally bewitching her, he asked intimately, Brother bought an apartment nearby. After the freshman week ends, can you stay with brother? When Pei Qian met the man's gaze, she felt as if something had scalded her heart and her ears were burning. I'll think about it. That was what Bei Yunj said at that time, but when she ate half a bowl more than usual. When she returned, the man asked nonchalantly, Has Yun thought about it? Bei Yunj, how much time did she have to think about it? Brother, we're adults now. We can't just do whatever we want. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. After thinking about it, she decided to appease him first. She was indeed not prepared to stay in the apartment with Huashidu. For some reason, he felt like he was having an affair. When the man heard Bei Yunj's gentle persuasion, he licked his itchy teeth and couldn't help but chuckle hoarsely. Then can't you coax your brother a little? The man said this seriously. Bei Yunj, it's good not to be human. I can do whatever I want. I'll think about it for one more night. It was not because of anything else, but because of the gentleness in the man's eyes today. It was simply too much. She could not think properly. All right then. Huashidu was not in a hurry. Instead, he leaned over casually and stuffed the keys into her pocket. Bei Yunj turned her face slightly and could see the mole on the man's sexy Adam's apple trembling with his deep laughter. She blushed and her heart raced. Brother will wait for you. P.S. Continue in the morning. Chapter 12:26. The next moment. Bei Yunj's ears were pinched by the man's smile. Her entire body froze and her ears burned even more. Why did this man give her a key as if it was a hotel room card? Bei Yunji even suspected that Huashidu had long known that she had no resistance to him getting close to her. Don't stare at me like that outside. The man lowered his voice and deliberately teased her. It's as if you want to eat me. Do you remember what I gave you? The man's casual intimacy was clearly full of hints and seduction. Bei Yunji, this D***M man was shameless. Then when he saw Bei Yunji go upstairs, the smile on Huashidu's lips gradually faded. He lit a cigarette lazily and left. Bei Yunji, who was walking upstairs, could not stop her imagination from running wild. She looked at the key Huashidu gave her and felt that it was hot. She had a feeling that this thing would open a seductive den of ecstasy. After entering the dormitory, Su Xianing, who was cutting a big mango, looked at Bei Yunji strangely. What's wrong with you? Is the weather so hot? She was only wearing a loose t-shirt, why was her neck so red? Bei Yunji. Yes. The form teacher asked me to bring you a military training uniform. You're really good. You applied for leave on the first day. Su Xianing wiped her hands and threw the military training uniform to Bei Yunji. Bei Yunji, thank you. Not long after, Bei Yunji looked up at her. Military training? Yes, half a month. Su Xianing flipped through her book and chewed on a mango. Bei Yunji, she had forgotten that she had to undergo military training in university. The next day, during the military training, Bei Yunji realized what she had missed during that period. Thanks to Bei Yunji, the instructors who were leading them for military training this time were members of Team Falcon and Team Wolf. Many people counted the stars on the instructors' shoulders and could not help but feel excited. Why were all the instructors this year at the big boss level? Moreover, all of them were at least 180 centimeters tall, giving off a sense of security. No matter how one looked at them, they were bursting with hormones. Only Bei Yunji's eyelids twitched when she saw most of the familiar faces. Especially after that. There was also Ji Yiqing, who had been stuck to by the girls of Yun University for most of the day. He stood under the national flag with a gentle smile, but his military uniform made him look as straight as jade. In order to thank everyone for their love, I will use the next 2 weeks to deepen our understanding of each other. Bei Yunji felt that this was not a good thing. However, those who were still not afraid of death did not notice anything. They even exclaimed in private, "Instructor is too handsome." Therefore, under the temptation of the instructor's good looks, everyone happily carried their backpacks and took the bus to the training camp. When the training started, these silent and gentlemanly instructors suddenly became strict, catching everyone off guard. He's dead, he's dead. Is this training risking his life? Someone began to wail. However, the next second, they were dragged out by the instructor to run around the 800-meter training field. Only then did everyone realize that this was not King Paradise, but a devil training camp. The members of Team Falcon and Team Wolf from the School of Computer Science were also caught off guard. They had never thought that Bei Yunji would actually go to the physics department. Chapter 12:27. To think that they thought that this guy was in the computer science department, so they specially asked their superiors to transfer them to the computer science department. The members of Team Wolf and Team Falcon did not look too good, so much so that the students were trembling. No way the instructor was in a bad mood on the first day? If it was in the past, there would be many troublesome students and instructors in Yun University. However, this year's instructors were not only high-ranking, but they also looked like they were not to be trifled with. Hence, no troublesome students dared to provoke the instructors for the entire day. During the first 3 days of training, the instructor of Class 1 of the physics department praised Hai Ning many times. Hai Ning had the highest completion rate in the entire training. Including shooting practice, Hai Ning had the best results among the girls. Hai Ning got 78 points out of 10 target practice sessions. After Hai Ning was praised, she could not help but smile. She glanced at Bei Yunji, who did not receive any attention. Hai Ning, you're too amazing. Your score is in the top 3 in the class. Chao Yingying praised her without holding back. Hai Ning smiled. This is nothing. I used to like shooting games. With that said, she even looked at Bei Yunji, who was shooting. However, Bei Yunji's results seemed to be average. She won't feel disappointed, right? Chao Yingying sneered. Hai Ning, your temper is too good. You're actually in the mood to worry about her. Under everyone's gaze. After 10 rounds of target practice, Bei Yunji slowly got 61 points, causing the instructor to frown. Only Ah Hui, who was standing beside Ji Yiqing in the distance, could not help but twitch his mouth when he saw this scene. What kind of useless persona was this? Keep pretending, just keep pretending. Her results are like this? Jiyiqing raised his eyebrows. He always felt that if this was the result of a scientific researcher, the contrast was quite cute. No wonder Huashidu asked him to give his child a chance. Ahui thought of the experience of being tortured by Bei Yunj in the district and his soul trembled. He closed his eyes. This person definitely did it on purpose. The last time she was shooting in the district, she got 99 points in 5 seconds. And it was under the circumstances where she was not used to it. Jiyiqing raised his eyebrows in surprise and also looked at Ai Hui. 99 points in 5 seconds. Even the third-year players in the district would find it difficult to do so. A short while later, Jiyiqing turned his head and continued to look at Bei Yunj. He found that Bei Yunj was not very enthusiastic about the military training mission, but as soon as it was dismissed, he would go and give water to the girl in the philosophy department next door. As a result, the other boys who had originally wanted to give it a try in front of the little girl from the philosophy department did not look too good. Is there anything wrong with Master Du's child? At the end of the day, Hai Ning returned to the dormitory assigned to her by the training camp. She couldn't hide the joy on her face and glanced at Bei Yunj from time to time. He felt like he had vented his anger. Until a week had passed. The instructors suddenly gathered the freshmen at the training ground, and the freshmen from the physics department arrived late. From afar, he could see the instructor and the new students sitting opposite each other, operating the computer as if they were competing. In the training field, 2 people were doing the 200-meter obstacle course. The instructor on the left had used an explosive for the obstacle course. It was a real flame that soared into the sky. On the other hand, the student on the right exploded into purple powder. They lost miserably in this competition. Not only were the instructors fast, but they were also not injured. As for the student on the right, his entire body was covered in purple powder, and he even completed it over time. Chapter 12:28. Bei Yunj saw that the person covered in pink and purple powder was Chu Zhixing. She raised her eyebrows unconsciously and smiled leisurely. What are you doing? Hearing Bei Yunj's voice, Lu Yuanxi turned back to look at her and teased casually, Who asked our brother Chu to be so handsome? All the girls in the class recommended him to go on stage. The architecture department was training beside the medical department, so Lu Yuanxi knew very well how Chu Zhixing had been implicated. Ever since Chu Zhixing recuperated, he had become tall and thin. Just yesterday, Lu Yuanxi had pulled Chu Zhixing to play basketball. In the end, Chu Zhixing casually lifted his shirt to wipe his sweat, revealing his abs, causing all the girls present to almost scream. Why do you always bully our Xiao Chu? Although Bei Yunj said this, the smile on her lips was obvious. She was clearly watching the show. Su Xianing, who was beside her, was speechless when she saw this. How deep did their relationship have to be friends with Bei Yunj? Until the next moment. Lu Yuanxi, who was gloating with Bei Yunj, was suddenly called. The instructor from the architecture department in the distance said, Lu Yuanxi, you'll do the obstacle course next. Lu Yuanxi immediately refused. Instructor, I can't. However, the instructor insisted, how can a man say that he can't? Bei Yunj could not help but lower her head. Bei Yunj, try smiling again? Lu Yuanxi looked at Bei Yunj expressionlessly. You can do it, brother Lu. Bei Yunj encouraged him lazily and walked toward the philosophy department. At this moment, several girls from the philosophy department could not help but approach Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj, you know Lu Yuanxi from the architecture department? He's so handsome. Bei Yunj sat beside Song Yao and replied slowly, I know him. Really? I'm so envious. The girls could not help glancing at Lu Yuanxi. However, Bei Yunj seemed to have thought of something and suddenly opened the QR code on her phone. She smiled very politely. Do you want to add him as a friend? Song Yao was speechless. She suddenly remembered that Lu Yuanxi had sold Bei Yunj's bank account. Were these 2 desk mates stabbing each other every day? Not long after. Bei Yunj glanced at the 2 people beside the computer and asked, What are those 2 doing? That instructor is a senior from our Yun University's computer science department. He's competing with the freshman from the computer science department. Song Yao paused and added, But we freshmen lost very badly. This match was simply a one-sided slaughter. Both sides used computers to manipulate the landmines of their teammates and their own teammates. The goal of the competition was to protect one's own teammates' landmines and detonate the opponent's landmines. As for the results of the competition, it would depend on which team's injuries were lighter and which team completed the mission faster. Tisk, Is this the standard of our Yun University freshmen? The instructor who was controlling the computer asked jokingly, is there no one who can beat your senior brother? Lu Yuanxi stood in the training ground and waited, but none of the freshmen dared to sit at the computer desk. The captains of Team Wolf and Team Falcon just lowered their heads and played with their gloves, not joining in the fun. Why don't we let Senior Cheng do it? Suddenly someone suggested. As the teaching assistant of Computer Science Class 1, Cheng Zihuai also came to the camp with the freshmen. That's right. Senior brother has already graduated for so many years. Why don't you compete with our Senior Cheng? The instructor smiled. Sure, which one of you is Senior Cheng? Come and try. Chapter 12:29. Hearing this, Cheng Zihuai also stood up, causing the girls around him to discuss excitedly. Ever since Cheng Zihuai entered the school, his results in the computing department had been outstanding. In addition to his handsome looks, he was once a popular figure in Yun University. There were also many freshmen who liked Cheng Zihuai. However, everyone knew that Cheng Zihuai and Qin Youjiao, who had joined the International Musicians Association, were childhood sweethearts. Zihuai, all the best. Qin Youjiao suddenly shouted. Suddenly, the surrounding people's ridicule of this talented and beautiful couple became even louder. This public interaction was no less than a public display of affection. A trace of gentleness flashed past Cheng Zihuai's eyes. Seeing this, the others were also envious. Isn't Senior Cheng and the belle of the music department too sweet? Hearing this, someone chimed in, this pair is already recognized as a good-looking couple in Yun University, right? That was right. On Yun University's forum, Cheng Zihuai and Qin Youjiao's discussion had always been very high. Instructor, please change someone else for this round. I don't dare to be teammates with Senior Cheng. Lu Yuanxi suddenly snorted and leaned against the pillar beside him, clearly not planning to cooperate. Cheng Zihuai's expression darkened. How could he not know that Lu Yuanxi was doing this because of Bei Yunch? Okay, then change it. The instructor nodded. With that said, a freshman from the computing department volunteered to be Cheng Zihuai's teammate. However, when the second round started, everyone thought that Cheng Zihuai, as a talented student from Yun University's computing department, should be able to compete with the instructor. However, they did not expect that Cheng Zihuai would also lose miserably after the first round. Qin Youjiao's originally excited and expectant expression froze completely. She did not expect Cheng Zihuai to lose, and lose so badly. However, the instructor even said with a smile, "You're indeed stronger than the previous freshman, but this ability still needs to be strengthened." Cheng Zihuai's expression did not look too good as he clenched his fists unconsciously. This was the first time he had been slapped in the face in public. The freshmen of Yun University fell silent. Actually, the students who could get into Yun University were more or less a little arrogant. Therefore, even when facing these instructors, they felt that the instructors were inferior to them. But today the instructor crushed their pride in terms of professionalism. Song Yao looked away, her voice gentle and pleasant. This instructor is really amazing. His opponent is indeed quite weak. Pei Yunch snorted without giving him any face, her tone lazy. Song Yao was speechless. Bei Yunch did not expect that Cheng Zihuai would not improve at all. He had studied at the computing center for 2 years and studied at the computing department of Yun University for a year, yet he was only at this level? But when Haining heard this, she laughed out loud. We are laymen, there is no need to point fingers at them, right? Chao Yingying also mocked. Yeah, if you can do it yourself, then do it yourself. If you're so talkative, why don't you become a computer science professor? Song Yao frowned and was about to say something when she suddenly heard someone not far away speak. Instructor, I can recommend someone to be your opponent. Then everyone looked at Cheng Zihuai instinctively. Cheng Zihuai smirked and glanced at Bei Yunch coldly. A trace of ridicule flashed past his eyes. Bei Yunch from the physics department. She used to get first place in the Computing Institute's competition. With that said, everyone's eyes gathered on Bei Yunch. Some were curious and some were doubtful. Chapter 12:30. Song Yao's expression darkened. Cheng Zihuai was obviously doing it on purpose. However, hearing this, the people from Team Falcon and Team Wolf immediately woke up from their sleep. Who were they calling out to? However, before Team Falcon and Team Wolf could remind them, they heard their colleagues gradually become arrogant. Physics department? Sure, but as long as you don't think that I'm bullying amateurs. Her words were too arrogant. Team Falcon and Team Wolf were speechless. The captain of Team Falcon, Lu Zhongzhou, could not help but whistle. Then he clapped with all his might, his face saying, "Let's fight, let's fight." The others were speechless. Bei Yunj touched the back of her neck. Then everyone heard her ask hesitantly, but she still dragged her voice. "It's not good, right?" "Why not?" the instructor asked. Just when everyone thought that Bei Yunj was afraid, she raised her eyebrows slowly and said, "Because I'm definitely going to win." The instructor was speechless. The others were speechless. Only Lu Zhongzhou, Tan Nan, and the rest could not change the crazy look in their eyes when they heard Bei Yunj say this. Their Miss Pei was really cute. Really? Junior is still young, so you can't boast. The instructor only treated Bei Yunj as a student who did not know her limits and said with a smile, "Look at your senior Cheng. He's not even so arrogant." "Is that so?" Bei Yunj stood up as well, her eyes meeting Cheng Zihuai's dark gaze carelessly. She raised her eyebrows lazily in an unbridled manner. "Then, Senior Cheng, watch how I win." With that said, Cheng Zihuai's face was livid. Chao Yingying and Hai Ning both wondered if this person was crazy. If Cheng Zihuai couldn't win, how could she win? As for the remaining onlookers, they all shut their mouths. The courage of the top scholar's father was indeed unimaginable. When Bei Yunj sat in front of the computer, Lu Zhongzhou could not help but shout again, "Good luck, Student Pei." Bei Yunj was speechless. The instructor's eyelids twitched, not knowing what was wrong with Lu Zhongzhou. "It's fine if you don't cheer for me, but you're cheering for others? You can choose a teammate," the instructor said. Bei Yunj, Lu Yuanci. Lu Yuanci, ? Resistance was written all over Lu Yuanci's body. "Bei Yunj, are you planning to ruin our desk-mate relationship?" Hearing this, the freshmen couldn't help but laugh. They didn't expect that the top scorer's father and Lu Yuanci used to be desk mates. "I'll treat you to a meal if you lose." As soon as Bei Yunj finished speaking, Lu Yuanci immediately walked towards the training ground without any dignity left. Bei Yunj also looked at the instructor and the corners of her lips curled up. "Senior brother, let's use powder bombs for both explosives." "Junior, you're thinking too much." Before the instructor could finish speaking, Ji Yiqing announced on the radio station, "For the first obstacle passage, use powder bombs instead." Only then did the instructor realize that something was wrong. It was impossible for Ji Yiqing to have heard what Bei Yunj had just said, but he had suddenly asked someone to change the safety bomb. Why was that? The instructor also became serious, but he realized that the person opposite him was not nervous at all. So, the third round of the competition began. However, no one had any expectations for the results of the competition. After all, Bei Yunj was from the physics department. No matter how they looked at it, it didn't seem like he could win against the big shots in the district. However, in the blink of an eye, a thick purple fog suddenly exploded in the first passage. This caused the people in the obstacle passage to be struck by lightning. Chapter 12:31. Even the freshmen and teachers were dumbfounded. However, when they took a closer look, what was even more unexpected was that the person who had been hit by the bomb on the obstacle course was another instructor. Everyone's scalps went numb and they did not dare to imagine it. Fortunately, they had just changed the safety bomb. Otherwise, that instructor would have to lie in bed for at least a few months. At this moment, the instructor who had been bombed felt the same way. He felt a chill run down his spine and entered a state of alertness. What was wrong with Wang Fengtian? He couldn't even beat a little girl? At this moment, Wang Fengtian, who was in front of the computer and was preparing to attack Bei Yunj's obstacle course, broke out in cold sweat. F***CK? What was going on? Why did his obstacle course explode? Wasn't this too terrifying? Wang Fengtian looked up and saw Bei Yunj, who was casually operating the computer. Suddenly, a deep sense of fear surged in his heart. And as expected, suddenly Wang Fengtian's obstacle course exploded 3 more times, causing Wang Fengtian's head to hurt. "Instructor Wang, why didn't you bomb Bei Yunj's obstacle course?" someone asked in confusion. Wang Fengtian was still angry. He was even more flustered by the nonchalant person on the other side. Now, it was difficult for him to even guard his obstacle course, let alone attack Bei Yunj's obstacle course. The first obstacle course would explode from time to time, causing the instructor on the obstacle course to doubt his life. Why did he have to suffer like this? On the other hand, Lu Yuanci, who was jogging beside him, compared to him, the instructor on the first obstacle course was in a sorry state. This was too tragic. During this 200-meter training, the instructor on the first obstacle course had been blasted all the way, and Bei Yunj's bombs were especially accurate. It was even more terrifying than the training in their district. However, suddenly, a purple mist exploded behind Lu Yuanxi. Wang Fengtian was puzzled. He clearly did not attack Bei Yunzhi's obstacle course. Then he heard Bei Yunzhi chuckle and say, "Lu Yuanxi, if you continue to walk, I'll give you a bath with powder bombs." The others were speechless. How ruthless. Outside the venue, Chu Zhixing and Song Yao held back their laughter. Lu Yuanxi couldn't help but want to curse, but he still played seriously. Bei Yunzhi glanced at Lu Yuanxi. Seeing that he wasn't fooling around, she also became interested. While fending off Wang Fengtian's ferocious attacks after his mental breakdown, Lin Yiqin quickly bombarded the instructor at the first obstacle course. Just like that, Bei Yunzhi single-handedly destroyed the mentalities of the two instructors. How could he be an amateur at this level? What's the point of blindly learning physics? Until the end of the competition, Lu Yuanxi did not have a single speck of powder on his body. The other instructor, on the other hand, was completely covered in powder, and his original camouflage uniform could no longer be seen. "Why do you want to study physics?" Wang Fengtian asked from the depths of his soul after regaining his senses. Bei Yunzhi said, "My grandfather chose it." Wang Fengtian, "You're so stubborn, I really couldn't tell that you're someone who listens to the elders." However, Wang Fengtian was even more troubled by the fact that he had lost to an amateur girl. At this very moment, the ones with the ugliest expressions were Cheng Zihuai, Qin Youjiao, and the rest. No one thought that Bei Yunzhi could really win against Wang Fengtian. She even beat Wang Fengtian until he could not fight back. As for the others, seeing that someone had finally won against the instructor, they were also satisfied. As expected of the top scholar's father. This scene was simply an inhumane torture. P.S. Good night, continue tomorrow. Chapter 1232. Only the people from the computer department started to doubt their lives. Were they really suitable for the computer department? "You're just a student?" Wang Fengtian was more or less dealt a huge blow. After all, he was once an influential figure in the computer department of Yun University. He continued to ask unwillingly, "Why didn't you choose the computer department?" Bei Yunzhi's red lips curled up, but the speed at which she typed on the keyboard was suddenly dazzling. "Isn't it the same no matter what you choose?" As soon as she finished speaking, suddenly, not far away, all the remaining powder bombs on the first obstacle course exploded instantly. A thick purple fog rose into the sky. Seeing this scene, Wang Fengtian's body stiffened. His brain froze and he could not think calmly. How was this possible? How could someone directly blow up an entire path? Only the members of the Wolf and Falcon teams were filled with pride. They could not hide the smile on their faces. This should be the youngest winner of the Busaka Prize in the country. At this moment, Wang Fengtian and everyone else finally reacted. If Bei Yunzhi had done this just now, the instructor on the first obstacle course would probably have been blinded by the thick purple fog and would not even be able to get out of the 200-meter obstacle course. Obviously, Bei Yunzhi had actually given in to him in the competition, and this was the real deal. Even the instructors in the district had goosebumps when they saw this scene. How heaven-defying was this level? F***CK, the top scorer's father is awesome. The freshmen of Yun University took the lead in clapping excitedly. Even the teachers who were watching from the side were grinning from ear to ear and applauding. There was indeed an amazing person in this batch of freshmen. Why didn't such a seedling come to our computer department? Si Qingyin's old colleague from the same department frowned. He was also thinking about when he could trick her over. "Lu, don't have any ideas about our department." The physics department professor glared at Professor Lu next door. A while ago the mathematics department was still snatching her from him. Now the computer department was eyeing her? After the competition ended, Bei Yunzhi naturally glanced around and saw Cheng Zihuai looking at her with a gloomy expression. She raised her eyebrows slightly, full of provocation. Cheng Zihuai gritted his teeth and spoke so softly that almost no one could hear him. Bei Yunzhi? Bei Yunzhi sneered, then turned around and walked back to his class. Beside him, Hai Ning and Chao Yingying's expressions were also extremely ugly. They didn't expect that their words would be instantly slapped in the face. Hai Ning took a deep breath, but her body was still trembling slightly. She couldn't help but clench her fists. And in the next few days of training, Hai Ning worked even harder, making the instructor praise her again and again. However, because of Bei Yunzhi's competition, the instructor also began to pay attention to Bei Yunzhi. Moreover, no matter how bad Bei Yunzhi's performance was, the instructor still insisted that Bei Yunzhi sign up for the final shooting competition. Yun University's military training had a tradition. The final assessment on the last 2 days of the military training was a competition between each class. It was also the first opportunity for Yun University to obtain individual glory. Therefore, Haining was determined to pass the final test. On the day of the assessment, Haining's results seemed to be good, and many girls surrounded her. Haining, you're too good at long-distance running. You almost got first place. Our class and the civil engineering class next door are so close. How good would it be if you participated in the shooting competition? Chapter 1233. Not only the people around her but even the rest of the class thought the same. The top scholar's father was indeed amazing in many ways, but her shooting skills, it was hard for people to compliment her against their will. After all, in the past few days, under the instructor's careful guidance, the worst shooting student could get 70 points, but the top scholar's father was still struggling to pass. Everyone was worried. They turned around and saw that Bei Yunj was still eating popsicles with Song Yao. She was not nervous about the upcoming shooting competition at all. Where did she get this popsicle? Rely on her? Forget it. Chao Yingying's tone was mocking, but it was more restrained than before. However, when the other girls heard Chao Yingying say this, someone could not help asking, "Don't you know who Bei Yunj is?" Not only was she the fourth successor of the Qin family, but she also had 3 immortal brothers that others would not dare to have. What do you mean? Chao Yingying frowned. Even Haining and Du Mingting found it strange. Before she could finish speaking, the girl shut up awkwardly. It's fine. Just don't provoke her. According to some who knew the inside story, it seemed that because many reporters were keeping an eye on Bei Yunj's movements on Chieba, almost all posts about Bei Yunj's identity and background had been banned recently. The Qin family probably couldn't bear for their elder miss to be exposed to the public. What? Tell us clearly. Haining grabbed the girl. Don't you usually look at Tieba or the school group? The girl asked. However, from the reaction of the 3 of them, she knew that they really didn't know anything. She took a deep breath and said softly to Haining and the rest, "If you really want to know, go and investigate the Qin family in Yuncheng." With that said, the girl left. The shooting competition was about to start. Bei Yunj had just finished watching Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi's 400-meter steeplechase competition. One was first and the other was second. They had earned the attention of the entire venue. "Master Pei, all the best for the shooting competition. I heard that you're the only one who passed the shooting competition." Lu Yuanxi wiped his sweat and walked over to tease Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj chewed on the wooden stick lazily. Her light red lips twitched as she glanced at the shooting team that was already in the midst of the competition. There were 4 spots in each class for the shooting competition, 2 boys and 2 girls. The other girl happened to be Chao Yingying. Chao Yingying's shooting skills were also not bad. She got 83 points in the preliminary round, 2nd place in the girls' group, and 5th place overall. After he left the stage, many people applauded. But then she heard the 2 boys with high scores mocking her. Is this the standard of a girl's shooting? I feel sorry for the air bomb in her hand. Tisk, girls are indeed not suitable for shooting. Your father knows how to shoot, but he shot a brainless thing like you. Bei Yunj had just walked over with a popsicle in her mouth when she heard Su Xianing's extremely irritable sneer. Bei Yunj slowly glanced at the 2 boys whose faces had already darkened. Before she could say anything, she heard Su Xianing speak arrogantly. Come. Bei Yunj, teach them a lesson. Bei Yunj. He even treated her as one of his own. At this moment, when the 2 boys heard this, they couldn't help but laugh out loud. Is that so? Then let's see how good the female college entrance examination top scorer is. The boy deliberately emphasized the word female, but in his heart, he was already beside himself with joy. The news had spread in the freshman circle that this college entrance examination top scorer was bad at all military training programs. P.S. I'll make up 2 more chapters tomorrow morning. Chapter 1234. Su Xianing exploded when she heard this. She turned around wanting to grab Bei Yunj. However, in the next second she met Bei Yunj's faint smile. Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow at her. Su Xianing, who had suddenly woken up, was speechless. She had almost forgotten that her relationship with Bei Yunj was very bad. Bei Yunj did not say anything and walked to the instructor to report. Then the 2 boys were still mocking her. Even the top scholar of the college entrance examination doesn't dare to say such words. Why are you shouting so enthusiastically? Why am I shouting so enthusiastically? Su Xianing looked at them coldly. No way. I'm just joking with you. How can you take it seriously? The two boys had their arms around each other's shoulders, but they deliberately mocked her in a feminine voice. That's true. Whether Bei Yunj wins or loses has nothing to do with you anyway. Your mouth is much more powerful than your hands. Hearing the last sentence, some of the boys around suddenly laughed and looked at Su Xianing with disgusting gazes. Su Xianing's expression was dark. Before she could speak, she heard Bei Yunj's voice. Student, it's fine if you don't have a handle on your lower body, but you can't not have a handle on your mouth. Bei Yunj's casual voice was filled with her usual arrogance, making the face of the boy who spoke darken immediately. The surrounding girls could not help but laugh secretly. Song Yao added insult to injury and said in a gentle voice, "No wonder you spoke so much like eunuch." Everyone had an answer at the same time. No one had thought that the gentle belle of the philosophy department would have a vicious tongue. The boy was furious. He was about to walk toward Song Yao when Bei Yunj blocked him and grabbed his collar ruthlessly. A cold glint appeared in Bei Yunj's eyes and the smile did not reach his eyes. What do you want to do in front of me? Instantly. The boy was frightened by Bei Yunj's terrifying and cold aura and shrank back instinctively. Bei Yunj threw him aside and shouted to the people next door. He curled his lips casually and said, "Old Lu, little Chu, come and watch me shoot." Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing, who were watching the competition, were suddenly concerned by Master Pei. With your shameful shooting skills, you still have the nerve to advertise and call people to come and support you? The two of them walked over reluctantly, but they stood beside Song Yao subconsciously. At this moment, it was only then that the boy understood why Pei Yunj had called him over. He wanted Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing to protect Song Yao. Everyone could not help but look at Song Yao, then at the high-spirited Bei Yunj not far away. This couple is too easy to fall in love with. What kind of déjà vu was this? Soon, Bei Yunj took the number plate and started shooting next door. However, after a few shots, everyone saw Bei Yunj say something to the instructor. At this time the results were printed. Lu Yuanxi was the first to applaud. Good. Our Master Pei played well. Ranked 24th with 30 points. Everyone was speechless. Good fellow. There were a total of 24 people. Seeing this, the boy who was unconvinced just now immediately laughed out loud and mocked Bei Yunj without holding back. I thought you were amazing. Didn't you shout the most about that female student over there? What if your class's top scholar can't win against me? Hearing this, Chao Yingying felt embarrassed. Su Xianing should shut up if she knew what was good for her. However, Su Xianing gritted her teeth and laughed coldly. If she can't win against you, I'll perform a live performance of breaking a rock with my chest. Chapter 1235. With that said, Su Xianing regained her rationality and felt that she was a ruthless person. Bei Yunj had already beaten her to such a state just now. Why was she being so stubborn? Su Xianing's body froze and she suddenly fell into endless regret. Song Yao and the rest who heard the bold words were speechless. They did not expect Su Xianing to believe Bei Yunj the most at this critical moment. This shock was no less than finding out that the anti-fans of an artiste had secretly placed hundreds of thousands on the rankings. When human nature was complicated, hatred was also love. At this moment, Bei Yunj, who happened to hear this, suddenly whistled from behind everyone. Su Xianing gradually lost control of her expression. Her heart was in a mess and her face was hot. Bei Yunj was quite gentle. Student Su, thank you. Su Xianing was speechless. What kind of social death scene was this? Master Pei, she has already bet on you. What are you going to do? Lu Yuanxi licked his cheeks lazily and asked with a chuckle. Bei Yunj dragged his voice and slowly walked to the shooting platform, wiping the gun. What can I do? We're classmates, so I have to protect our student Su's chest. Lu Yuanxi was speechless. Chu Zhixing was speechless. *CK, he was being unreasonable again. Master Pei was always making things difficult. Su Xianing's face was still burning and she was almost angered away by Bei Yunj. And those boys were waiting to see a joke. How dare he say this when he only got 30 points? However, just as they were feeling disdainful, they realized that they had suddenly changed to high-end equipment. There were even instructors surrounding them. The instructor smiled and said, Bei Yunj, it's indeed boring to compete with you freshmen. Come and compete with us. Everyone was speechless. What did this mean? Could it be that a person who had scored 30 points had aroused the instructor's desire to win? Then you have to give our class extra points. Hearing Bei Yunj's casual words, The physics department class 1 was touched. It turned out that in the heart of the top scholar's father, there was still class honor. Okay, if you win against us, I'll give you double the points. Hearing the instructor say this, no one felt that it was unfair. After all, no one thought that anyone could win against the people training in the district. Instructor, are your eyes all right? Bei Yunji's score is 30 points. How can she compare with them? Some people couldn't help but talk about it. They couldn't help but feel that Bei Yunji was deliberately trying to show off. However, as more and more people gathered around the instructors, everyone's minds were in a mess. What was going on? Before they could figure it out, they saw the machine beside them trying to start up. Suddenly, 2 white discs shot out, which were then shattered by the instructor. The surrounding girls were all excited. This was too cool. I'll go first. 35 seconds. The instructor was in high spirits. All right. Bei Yunji watched from the side. In just 20 seconds, the instructor had reached his target. Even the other instructors couldn't help but applaud when they saw this. Even in the district, such a result could be counted on one's fingers. After that, the instructors finished one by one. The best result was 35 discs, which took 16 seconds. The scene was simply too hot-blooded. Too handsome. Bei Yunji, if you can't get into the top 3, I'll reset your shooting score to 0, the instructor teased. Okay. Don't be afraid that Captain Tan will look for you later. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows. These big shots were each more arrogant than the other. But at first, the instructor thought that Bei Yunji meant that if they didn't give her a score, she would go to Tan Nan to support her. But he didn't expect that Bei Yunji meant. Chapter 1236. When they lost the competition, Tan Nan would come looking for them for punishment and additional training. At this moment, everyone watched as Bei Yunji really had the guts to walk to the shooting platform and slowly loaded the gun. Until the whistle blew. 3 or 4 white discs flew into the air. Bei Yunji closed one of her eyes lightly. Her pretty eyes curled up and there was coldness in them. Her fingers moved quickly and 3 to 4 white dishes were shattered very quickly. But then, more and more white discs flew out of the machine and became faster and faster. The scene in front of them made everyone's pupils shrink. They were even more shocked that the white discs in front of them shattered one by one. Is it, like, a lot of them shattered? Someone asked hesitantly. The others were dazzled and didn't know what was going on. But the only thing they were sure of was that Bei Yunji took less time to hit the white discs than the other instructors. Soon after, the results were out. Name, Bei Yunji. Time taken, 9 seconds. Hit rate, 100%. Seeing this, the instructors' expressions changed and the others' scalps went numb. Someone said in disbelief, she hit all the white discs just now? But they didn't see it clearly? That's not right. Then why did Bei Yunji only get 30 points? Someone finally realized what was wrong. Why did the top scorer's dad, who had always been a pain in physical training, suddenly seem to have cheated? Yeah, the highest hit rate for the instructors is 97%. How did she get 100%? Suddenly, the only instructor who didn't take part in the competition turned around and looked at the crowd. 30 points? Are you talking about Bei Yunji's shooting results over there? She only hit 3 shots, so of course she got 30 points. What? Instantly, the faces of the boys who had quarreled with Su Xianing earlier were all green and red. How was this possible? So not only was Bei Yunji good at shooting, but she also beat the instructors in the training camp? At this moment, Su Xianing, who saw Bei Yunji's results, regained her senses and heaved a sigh of relief. But she didn't want to meet Bei Yunji's gaze the moment she looked up. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows slightly. It was as if she was waiting for her to praise her. Su Xianing, wasn't this person immature? She touched her hair unnaturally and said vaguely, "It's pretty good, isn't it?" Seeing Su Xianing's awkward behavior, Bei Yunji smiled casually. A playful look flashed across his eyes and he stopped teasing her. But very soon, applause suddenly rang out from behind the crowd. They turned around and saw Tan Nan glancing at the group of instructors with an indifferent expression. His tone was cold. "Your results are pretty good, everyone." The instructors felt a chill run down their spines. They were done for. Not only did they embarrass themselves in front of everyone, but they were also caught by God Tan himself. "Let's gather tonight. I'll give you special training." Tan Nan casually buttoned up his sleeves and said indifferently. Instantly, the instructors' faces turned green. It can't be? Tan Shin was going to personally torture someone? Lu Zhongzhou chuckled from the side. Yo, everyone is quite lucky. Almighty Tan rarely trains others. The weak and helpless instructors were speechless. Yes, Almighty Tan rarely trained others. The last person who had been trained by Almighty Tan turned pale when he heard Almighty Tan's name. After the competition ended, Bei Yunj threw his gun in front of the two boys who were talking just now and asked casually, "Do you still want to continue? If you can't beat me, what are you going to do? You can even drill a fire ring on the spot." Su Xianing, who seemed to have been suddenly mentioned, was speechless. Chapter 1237. The two boys' faces flushed red, but seeing so many instructors watching, they could only grit their teeth and apologize to Bei Yunj in a stuttering manner. The news that Bei Yunj had beaten the instructors had spread like wildfire among the freshmen. What kind of big shot was the top scorer's father? Was she an immortal? She knew everything. When Hai Ning heard the news, she couldn't believe it until she saw that Bei Yunj had won double the points for Class 1 of the physics department. She was in a daze. How was that possible? During training, Bei Yunj had always been at the passing line. In fact, when Bei Yunj was training, she heard Lu Zhongzhou say that there would be a physical training competition in the last 2 days, so she wanted to avoid it as much as possible. However, she didn't expect that the instructors would pay special attention to her because of the obstacle course. At night, Bei Yunj had just washed up and didn't have time to go to bed when she saw Lu Zhongzhou's message. Her eyelids twitched. She could only put on a jacket and go downstairs to the back building of the training camp. She knocked on the door of one of the offices. "Pei Pei, you're finally here." Lu Zhongzhou's face was full of smiles as he patted Bei Yunj on the shoulder. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. "Why are you looking for me?" Lu Zhongzhou blatantly asked for help. "Pei Pei, can you help me check the location of these bastards and crack something while you're at it?" The other instructors who didn't know Bei Yunj were shocked. What was going on? Was Captain Lu very close to this freshman who had been beating them recently? Okay. Bei Yunj walked to the computer, looked at the screen and cracked it quickly. Can she really do it? Wang Fengtian asked instinctively. But the next moment, everyone looked at him as if they were humiliating him with their eyes. How dare a loser like you ask if she can do it? Wang Fengdan, F***CK, was friendship so fragile? Not long after, Bei Yunj cracked the result and accurately located the location. She said, "Okay, do you want to take a look?" After that, suddenly they saw a series of cameras appear in front of them. Lu Zhongzhou froze. "How did you do that?" "I hacked into their security system and pulled up the surveillance footage." Bei Yunj slowly flipped through the surveillance footage one by one. Only the others felt their scalps go numb as they looked at the person in front of them. Isn't the current level of technology too terrifying? How could he retrieve the surveillance footage from this deciphered address? "Can you get the surveillance footage of our district?" Lu Zhongzhou asked from the bottom of his heart. Bei Yunj glanced at him and said calmly, "Of course. Didn't I hack once before?" Lu Zhongzhou? The instructors. Wang Fengtian asked instinctively, "You've been to the district?" Lu Zhongzhou immediately covered it up vaguely. She did go. Her brother is Yu and she participated in the show with Yu. I see. The others suddenly understood. When Lu Zhongzhou saw that the address of the fugitive that he had been searching for 3 to 4 months had been found so easily, he immediately beamed with joy. "Pei Pei, let's go. I'll treat you to a drink." Lu Zhongzhou patted Bei Yunj's shoulder and said generously. Bei Yunj hesitated. "Isn't alcohol prohibited here? I'm on vacation. It's nothing serious." If it wasn't for Bei Yunj, he would be playing games at home. Chapter 1238. When Bei Yunj heard this, she didn't notice the other instructor's crazy hints. She hesitated and said, "Okay." But she didn't want to wait half an hour. Bei Yunj looked at the drunk man in front of her and started to regret it. She took a deep breath. Does he always act like this after drinking? God Lu can't drink at all. God Tan has been watching him closely these few years, afraid that he will. Before one of the instructors could finish speaking, Lu Zhongzhou suddenly jumped out and giggled incoherently. Look, I can fly. Guess what I am?" "Bei Yunj, Pei Pei, guess what I am?" Lu Zhongzhou was drunk and couldn't be held back by 3 or 4 people. Bei Yunj could only brace herself and say, "A little swallow?" "No." Lu Zhongzhou burped and flapped his non-existent wings. "I am a little fortune butterfly." F***CK. Bei Yunj closed her eyes. She couldn't bear the fact that the man had turned into a butterfly. The other instructors seemed to be numb. It was as if this wasn't the first time they had seen this scene. Back at the Falcon and Wolf celebration party, God Lu also circled around the leader because the leader was a flower and he was a little butterfly. How do we wake him up? Bei Yunj opened her eyes and asked. We can't wake him up. We can only ask God Tan to take him away. The instructor wanted to cry but had no tears. But if God Tan saw God Lu like this, they would be in trouble too. Hurry up and ask Tan Nan to come over. Bei Yunj pulled Lu Zhongzhou hard. She didn't want Lu Zhongzhou to go out drunk. She didn't want to be seen by the freshmen. Okay. After the instructor left. At this moment, Bei Yunj could still hear Lu Zhongzhou's silly laughter. I am the most beautiful little fortune butterfly among the flowers. Okay, you are the most beautiful one. Bei Yunj said expressionlessly. Lu Zhongzhou looked at Bei Yunj with dissatisfaction. He frowned and asked, Why aren't you laughing? Bei Yunj pursed her lips and glanced at him. She said perfunctorily, Because you squashed my wings. The other instructors were speechless. What a guy. This person's ability to speak human language when meeting people and ghosts when meeting ghosts was simply too good. This strong mental fortitude almost made people believe that it was real. When Lu Zhongzhou heard this, he really did apologize to Bei Yunj seriously for pressing on her wings. Then, he obediently circled around her. A short while later, Tan Nan rushed over and saw Lu Zhongzhou, who had already turned into a butterfly. You're just going to watch him drink? Tan Nan looked at them from the corner of his eyes. The instructors didn't dare to say anything. Who would dare stop God Lu? Bei Yunj, I don't know how old he is. Hearing this, the other instructors looked at Bei Yunj with admiration. They didn't expect that a skinny and fair little girl could drink a bottle of white wine without blushing. When Tan Nan saw Bei Yunj, he pressed the space between his eyebrows. In the end, he could only take a deep breath. Take her away. Tomorrow you will go with Lu Zhongzhou to receive your punishment. Whether there is a mission or not, you are not allowed to drink in the camp. This is the rule. The instructors were dejected. Yes, Almighty Tan. Just like that, Bei Yunj finally saw Tan Nan take the little fortune butterfly away. When she thought of the situation just now, Bei Yunj couldn't help but feel her scalp go numb. She thought that Huashidu was the most ridiculous drunkard. She didn't expect that there was something even more ridiculous. Thinking of this, Bei Yunj was about to go back when her phone suddenly rang. She took it out and saw that it was Huashidu calling. End of chapter. Chapter 1239. What's wrong? Bei Yunj's tone was a little different from usual, probably because she had not recovered yet. So much so that the other party did not speak. Bei Yunj asked subconsciously, Did you drink too much too? At this moment, the other party spoke slowly, Aren't you in military training? What should she say? Should she say that someone was so happy that they were about to catch the fugitive that they pulled her to drink to celebrate? Bei Yunj said vaguely, I think someone outside has drunk too much. The other party did not say anything when he heard this. There was no sound on the phone for a long time, as if only the sound of each other's breathing could be heard. The night breeze blew gently, and the atmosphere was secretive and ambiguous. Bei Yunj frowned. Don't tell me, you really drank too much? As soon as she finished speaking, Bei Yunj suddenly heard the other party's soft and magnetic voice, as if he was murmuring in her ear, Yunin. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched and her heart tightened inexplicably. The man laughed softly. What a little liar. Bei Yunj, was this D***M man drunk or not? What did I lie to you about? Bei Yunj asked. You promised to give me an answer the next day. Have you forgotten? When Huashidu asked this, Bei Yunj suddenly remembered the key that Huashidu had given her in her bag. Her ears turned red unconsciously. The freshmen all live in school in their first year. For the first time, Bei Yunj felt like escaping. Soon, Bei Yunj heard the sound of the other party's silver lighter rubbing against each other. The man was lighting a cigarette. He grunted and continued to laugh. Really? Yunyun, can't you live with me? Before Bei Yunj could speak, she heard the man's bewitching voice. He laughed lazily. I can do whatever you want me to do. For a moment, Bei Yunj was confused by his flirting. After coming back to her senses, Bei Yunj realized that she had almost agreed, so she quickly warned him, Huashidu, you're not drunk. However, the person with black hair and red robes also revealed her fair ears that were slightly red. Huashidu raised his eyebrows. He was quite surprised that the little girl did not fall for it. Yes. The man lazily blew out a beautiful smoke ring and casually lowered his peach blossom eyes. Brother just can't bear to put our Yunyun in school. Yunyun was so beautiful, and her brother was not as playful as a young boy. He was not confident. I'm afraid that Yun will be bored and won't even look at me. The man's voice was very low. She didn't know if he was acting coquettishly or pretending to be pitiful. However, Bei Yunj fell for it. I'll apply to the teacher when I get back to school. Huashidu's thin red lips curled up. Before Huashidu and Bei Yunj could continue chatting, Bei Yunj suddenly heard someone else's voice on the other end of the line. Master Du, everyone is drinking. Why are you hiding here and making a call? The other party seemed to have drunk too much before he dared to ask Huashidu. On the other hand, Huashidu was in a good mood today. He tapped the cigarette ash with his fingertips and his seductive peach blossom eyes curled up. Yes, I'm chatting with my girl. Before Bei Yunj could think too much, she heard the man drawl, of course I have to serve her well. Bei Yunj, what was this D***M man saying now? Bei Yunj casually said something and hung up the phone. She pulled up her coat and hat. The next day, Bei Yunj realized that Lu Zhongzhou had disappeared and only Tan Nan was leading the team. Chapter 1240. Captain Tan. Before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, Tan Nan interrupted her. Go back to Yun University as soon as possible. Captain Lu is fine. Before Bei Yunj could respond, she heard Tan Nan say leisurely, but you have to clean the toilet for 3 months. Bei Yunj was speechless. She remembered that Lu Zhongzhou's sense of smell was extremely sensitive. For Lu Zhongzhou, this kind of work was not as good as being beaten up. Got it. Bei Yunj answered. After the farewell party in the evening, she took the bus back to Yun University. However, she did not expect to receive a call from Zhong Xinglin the moment she returned to Yun University. Yunj, the robot for the Gemini system is completed. Zhong Xinglin sounded pleasantly surprised. It was obvious that he did not expect to be able to create such a high-level AI robot one day. Bei Yunj's lips curled up. I'll go and take a look tonight? From the moment she entered the Computing Institute, Bei Yunj had been preparing the AI robot for the Gemini system. Because of the scarcity of materials, the progress had been very slow. And now, this was indeed the only thing that Bei Yunj wanted to confirm the most. Sure, you can set up your personal account, Zhong Xinglin said with a smile. At the Computing Institute, Bei Yunj walked into the research lab and saw a palm-sized disk spinning on the table. There was even a ring on the table. Yunj, this is the top AI robot in the country. Congratulations. Zhong Xinglin could not help but sigh. Even Zhong Xinglin had never thought that he would be able to see such a level of AI one day. Looks like he's pretty stupid. Bei Yunj reached out and gently flicked the small disc that was spinning excitedly. The small disc stopped and the camera met Bei Yunj's eyes, analyzing her personal data. Bei Yunj started to operate it. After the small robot was on standby, a virtual keyboard appeared. Soon she set up the password program. She restarted it again. The small disk had already been connected to the Gemini system on Bei Yunj's computer. A young girl's mechanical voice sounded. Master, I'm robot number 001 little G, nice to meet you. Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, it looks good now. After that, Bei Yunj picked up the ring and slowly put it on her index finger. She smiled at Zhong Xinglin. Thank you, old master. I'm relieved that you have the Gemini AI by your side. During this period of time, the international situation had not been peaceful. 2 well-known researchers from K country had gone missing. A researcher from S country also died in an accident on the plane 2 days ago, Zhong Xinglin said with a frown. Bei Yunj asked, are they all in the computing field? That's right. Zhong Xinglin had a complicated look in his eyes. It's very likely that the next one will be us. But don't worry, not many people know of your existence now. Bei Yunj lowered her gaze and said, I'm in school and I don't need anyone to protect me. Let Captain Tan and the rest come to the Computing Institute. How can we do that? Old master, if you go missing, I'll have to inherit the Computing Institute in advance. Bei Yunj teased indifferently. However, Zhong Xinglin was shocked when he thought of this. It wasn't easy for Country A to produce a super genius. They definitely couldn't let her die here. However, in the end, Zhong Xinglin couldn't persuade Bei Yunj and could only let the wolf hunting team stay at the Computing Institute first. After returning, Bei Yunj was also at CI7 and the Chaos Beings to find out what was going on. However, she didn't expect that the 2 sides would give her 2 completely different answers. Chapter 1241. CI7 found that these accidents were caused by someone. And the culprits were most likely the people Bai Yunj had fought within Ji University. Those people broke into Ji University's security system for the final results of the Ji University's genetics professor. However, the answer given to Bai Yunj by the chaosists was completely different. The chaosists believed that this accident was related to our country's politics. There was a very famous female politician in our country, Moira. She had always advocated for a strong country and even advocated for a national war. However, almost no one agreed with Moira's political theories over the years, so she had always been suppressed. However, until this year when Moira's husband, who was also a politician, died, many of Moira's husband's supporters supported Moira. This caused a turmoil in our country. However, Xian Yuan did not talk about this with Bai Yunj. After all, they did not participate in such sensitive topics. After Bai Yunj returned, she thought of these two different answers and a trace of thought flashed past her eyes. Morning. Borderless town. There were two old men in the dungeon. Their hair was white and their bodies were covered in injuries. Their hands and feet were tied, and a piece of cloth was stuffed in their mouths. They were the two missing researchers from K country. In front of the two researchers stood a slender man. He was wearing an expensive suit and shiny leather shoes. His movements were elegant and light. It was a strong contrast to the atmosphere in the dungeon. Both of you, I don't like to have blood on my hands, but my patience is limited. Are you really not going to talk to me about what happened 20 years ago? The man's tone was light, and there was no smile in his peach blossom eyes. Even when he curled his thin red lips, his gaze was indifferent. However, if Bai Yunj was here, she would definitely recognize at a glance that this was the man who coaxed her last night and insisted that she leave school to live with him. The two researchers trembled. When they thought of what happened 20 years ago, they subconsciously closed their eyes as if there was a knife on their backs. They had devoted their lives to research and had never done anything wrong. However, 20 years ago, in order to survive, they lost the life of a woman. Who are you? After taking away the cloth in their mouths, one of them asked weakly, but he also had a natural fear of the man in front of him. The man sneered. Is this a question you should be thinking about? The two men's faces were ashen, but their hearts were filled with fear. They were afraid that if they said it out loud, the reputation they had built up over the years would be destroyed. They were even more afraid that even if they said it, this man would not let them go. One of them stammered, You want to know what happened 20 years ago? What? You don't know? Let me give you a hint, Hu Jing. As soon as the man finished speaking, their pupils shrank and they looked at him abruptly. It was because of Hu Jing. But what was the relationship between this man and Hu Jing? To actually lock them up in such a place and interrogate them, Hu Shidu glanced at Zhou Yu, who knocked on the door and entered. Then he slowly wiped the blood off his hands. This is the last night. I'll leave it to you to think about how to answer me tomorrow. He raised his peach blossom eyes and the curve of his lips was a little cold. But if I'm not satisfied with your answers, I'll let you out. At this moment, the two researchers had no time to think about why this temperamental man was willing to let them go. As for whether the two of you can leave Kansoni village alive, that will depend on your luck. End of chapter. Chapter 1242. Hearing this, the two researchers' faces turned pale. Kansan village? Wasn't this the town where Hu Jing died? In a borderless town like Kansan village, what everyone said about a place without laws and resembling hell was real. The only rule of survival in this town was to kill. Some people would fight with drugs for money. Some people would kill for women. Some people would have no choice but to raise a sharp knife in order to survive. Please take us out and give us a way out. When the two of them heard this, they immediately panicked and kept kowtowing to the man in front of them. But at this moment, the man ignored their humble begging and turned to walk out of the dungeon. What happened? Hoshidu asked calmly. Zhou Yu could not help but look at Hoshidu. He wanted to say something but hesitated. Someone has investigated us, Master Du. You want me to handle this matter? Hoshidu glanced at him from the corner of his eyes with a faint smile. Zhou Yu said, Master Du, it seems to be Miss Pei who got someone to investigate you. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere suddenly quietened down. Have you found out? The man asked. Zhou Yu shook his head. I think only a little. How could Miss Pei easily discover the trap that Master Du had set up for so many years? The man took out a cigarette from the cigarette box and lit it. He bit it and said in a low and lazy voice, It's indeed a little troublesome. Why don't we mislead Miss Pei? Zhou Yu asked carefully. If Miss Pei found out about this, it would not be good for her. Instead, he did not know what Miss Pei's attitude towards Master Du would be if she found out. Why should I lie to her? The man's posture was casual. He held a cigarette between his fingers and suddenly looked up. Let her investigate. If this child thought that he was deliberately hiding it from her, it would not be easy to coax her. Zhou Yu was speechless. All along, so many people had investigated Master Du's background. When had Master Du ever let these nosy people off? But this time the person investigating him was Miss Pei. Master Du, on the other hand, was lying flat and letting people investigate carefully. They could only hope that Miss Pei was not too interested in their plan. Otherwise, was Miss Pei really not afraid of what Master Du was going to do next? Yun University. Classes for new students began, and at the same time the student union and clubs began to recruit new members. As soon as Bei Yunj entered the dormitory, she saw several department heads surrounding her. Student Pei, join our public relations department. This is definitely the best choice for you. Don't listen to her, Junior. There are a lot of handsome guys in our sports department. The number of new recruits has always been very small. No. Our intranet department is more suitable. Bei Yunja's eyelids began to twitch when she heard 4 or 5 senior sisters swarming over to snatch the conversation. Obviously, Wei Jinmin did not succeed in stopping this group of people from harassing her. No, I'm not interested. Good night, everyone. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, she quickly closed the door of the dormitory. All the department heads and deputy department heads outside. The top scholar's father's temper was too difficult to deal with. At this very moment, everyone in the dormitory was envious. These department heads and deputy department heads were usually the center of attention. How could they take the initiative to strike up a conversation with others? However, she didn't expect that she would be rejected by Bei Yunj when she took the initiative to visit them today. Bei Yunj, are you really not going to consider the club? This will be a network in the future. Du Mingting could not help but ask. Bei Yunj did not even look up. Yes. Chapter 1243. The others? Speaking of arrogance, this person was indeed the first to bear the brunt. Hai Ning suddenly stood up to open the door and handed the completed form to the minister with a smile. Minister Su, this is my registration form. I hope to help in your department in the future. Minister Su was more or less angered by Bei Yunj's attitude. Then he glanced at Bei Yunj, sneered, and directly took Hai Ning's registration form. No problem, Hai Ning, your score is considered high in the physics department. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, you will be able to access the best resources in the school. After Minister Su finished speaking, he left arrogantly. Hai Ning's eyes flashed with a touch of darkness. She unconsciously curled the corners of her lips and glanced at Bei Yunj with a bit of sarcasm. She didn't know whether this Bei Yunj was really stupid or pretending to be noble. Did she really think that the connections of the student union were useless? Minister Su was a laboratory student of Professor Huang Zui in the physics department. With Minister Su, she would soon be in the first batch of students to enter the laboratory of Professor Huang. However, if it weren't for Bei Yunj's arrogant attitude, Minister Su wouldn't be so good to her. Thinking of this, Hai Ning's mood became better. The next day, in the territory of the Kansani tribe, 2 older men were tied up. A burly man nearly 2 meters tall, carrying one in each hand, was walking towards the door. At this moment, the road was full of chaos as usual. Some people were fighting in the street and even biting each other's ears off. As for this scene, the passers-by felt as if they were watching a circus performance and quickly left with relish. The 2 great researchers who had always been gentle, saw the passers-by playing with knives and chewing human flesh outside. At this moment they were staring at them with malicious eyes and evil smiles. Their inner defenses completely collapsed. I'll say it. Please let us live. I'll say it too. I'm begging you, please take us in. At this moment, the passers-by who had just fiercely bitten people's ears suddenly rushed towards the burly man holding the 2 people in his hands. Unexpectedly, the burly man raised his leg and directly kicked the passers-by in the chest. The next moment, the passerby crashed into the wall on the other side, and the sound of bones cracking was clear and terrifying. As for the old beggar who had been wandering on the side of the street, he looked thin and weak. Suddenly, as if he had gone mad, he pounced on the passerby and slashed at his chest with his knife. He grabbed the meat with his hands and ate it. The scene was nauseating. Why didn't you say so earlier? Zhou Yu smiled and didn't even spare a glance at the chaos on the street. Instead, he had the burly man bring the man back. In the dungeon, Zhou Yu politely poured a cup of tea for the two of them and chuckled. My master said that he had offended the two of you when he brought you back. Please don't take offense. Okay, now can you tell me how Miss J.H. died? Immediately, the two of them shuddered. However, they didn't want to become food for those living ghouls. He Jingshan closed his eyes. Is Ji Linling. Back then he was the one who gathered all of us together. He was also the one who took away Hu Jing's final research manuscript. At that time, Hu Jing accidentally found out that they were doing research on mutants. The consequences of this research were likely to threaten the survival of mankind. At that time they were still too young and ambitious, thinking that they could control the research on mutants in their hands. However, Hu Jing firmly opposed it and took out his own theory in an attempt to make it public. End of this chapter. Chapter 1244. Hu Jing's scientific research ability could be said to be terrifying, and he had too many believers both inside and outside the circle. And her theory described the advantages and disadvantages of mutant research in detail. If it really caused a sensation, then their 10 years of hard work would all be wasted. Therefore, at that time, Ji Linling wanted to kill Hu Jing for the results of the experiment. They ignored it and even added fuel to the fire to let Ji Linling get rid of Hu Jing. They tampered with Hu Jing's theory and published it in the international scientific research community to make more people believe that their experiment was beneficial to mankind. But unexpectedly, in the end, because of this experiment, nearly an entire island of people died. Fortunately, at that time, they took into account the danger that Hu Jing had mentioned and only conducted the experiment on a relatively sparsely populated island. But that was still thousands of lives. They kept their mouths shut about the results of that experiment, and Ji Linling used the dead Hu Jing as a scapegoat. They pushed all the blame onto a dead person. As a result, Hu Jing was forever removed from the scientific research community. However, they survived well and enjoyed the fame and fortune in the industry. In the eyes of the public, they were highly respected people who almost sacrificed their lives for scientific research. There were more than 30 big shots who participated in that mutant research, but only 7 survived in the end. One of them even died in a plane crash a while ago. After Zhou Yu finished recording these things from 20 years ago, he couldn't help pursing his lips. Soldiers were born for the nation, then researchers were born for mankind. They could use technology to research and advance human civilization, but they could also easily use experiments to destroy all mankind. If it wasn't for Hu Jing, then whichever country that experiment was done in might have led to the destruction of the country. Do you still have Miss J.H.'s manuscript? Zhou Yu asked. This was the name that Hu Jing had always used to publish articles and experiment results. He Jingshan and Zhou Yu looked at each other. Then he took a deep breath. The manuscript might be in the hands of Moira, a member of parliament in our nation. She was a famous female politician in our nation. I have a copy. He Xionghui suddenly said, as long as you let us go, I'll give it to you. Professor He, why do you think you're here? Zhou Yu laughed. Or let me rephrase my question. Guess why the person in S Nation crashed? Suddenly, He Jingshan and Zhou Yu's hair stood on end. What do you mean? Zhou Yu continued, even if I send you out of this place you will still die. Someone is buying the lives of the 7 of you. After saying this, He Jingshan felt a chill run down his spine, but at the same time, it was as if he had suddenly woken up. Is it Ji Linling? Or Moira? Ah, I knew it. I knew it. Karma reincarnation. How long can I be alone? He Jingshan's eyes were filled with tears. I want to live. I beg you, I'll listen to you forever, don't let me die. After He Xionghui regained his senses, he immediately kowtowed to Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu glanced at them calmly, but there was a trace of disgust in his eyes. There were also such scums in the scientific research community. If you want to live, tell me where Miss J.H.'s research papers are. He Xionghui took a deep breath again and smiled miserably. The library in laboratory number 191. I entered a copy into the computer system. Library? Zhou Yu remembered something. Didn't Miss Pei take all the manuscripts in laboratory 191's library? End of chapter. Chapter 1245. Zhou Yu was speechless. Why did everything have to do with Miss Pei? The more Zhou Yu thought about it, the more his scalp went numb. What if Miss Pei did not agree with Master Du's plan and even stood against him? At that time, the person who stabbed Master Du in the end would be Miss Pei. Master Du would probably go crazy. Zhou Yu was at his wit's end, but Huashidu was really willing to hand his life over to Bei Yunj. At Yun University. Are you done? Bei Yunj was impatient. Si Qingyan was used to it, but the graduate students that Si Qingyan brought along were stunned. Where did this freshman come from? How could she speak to Professor Si like that? Don't rush me. How old are you? Can you have some patience? Si Qingyan was using Bei Yunj's robot to collect information with an envious expression. What kind of brain did this guy have? He actually made such a robot for her. Bei Yunj was expressionless as she continued to flip through the manuscripts she had brought back from Laboratory 191. After a while, just as Bei Yunj was engrossed in reading, Si Qingyan appeared beside her. What are you looking at? JH? Why haven't I heard of this scholar? Don't tell me you're reading some random book? Bei Yunj glanced at him leisurely. In another 20 years, you might not be as good as her. Si Qingyan was speechless. It was really strange that this person could have friends. Bei Yunj was indeed quite interested in this J.H. She was also quite surprised that there was no information about J.H. in the industry. He had always felt that this J.H. was an extraordinary person. He was extremely strong in all aspects, including his ideals and accomplishments. Then can you lend it to me to take a look? Si Qingyan asked, unwilling to give up. Bei Yunj took back the documents and looked at Si Qingyan quietly. She used a familiar tone to persuade him gently, Brother Yin, you won't understand this. Si Qingyan was speechless. F***CK, where did his knife go? You've been working on a project for a year? Bei Yunj asked. Si Qingyan was speechless. What else? If they were like you, they would have won the K.Z. Busaka Award after working for 2 or 3 months. Pei Zai, if you don't know how to speak, you'd better shut up. Si Qingyan went back to work on the project. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. If you keep me here, what about my physics class? You still need them to teach you physics? Si Qingyan chuckled. Then there must be some kind of homework, right? Bei Yunj asked. Si Qingyan nodded lightly as he buried his head in the experiment. Yes, Professor Huang from your faculty likes to assign big homework. He basically does it once a week. At the beginning of the freshman, maybe once every 2 weeks. Bei Yunj took a deep breath and asked coldly, Today is Friday of the 2nd week, right? Si Qingyan suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He had actually forgotten about this matter. That bald donkey surnamed Huang was a troublemaker. If Bei Yunj did not hand in her homework, Huang Zui might blow up the computer science department. Quick, quick, quick. Bei Yunj, go and hand in your homework. Bei Yunj instinctively stood up and walked out. Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks and turned to look at him. I don't know what homework is. Si Qingyan was speechless. After a while, Si Qingyan asked for the homework and asked Bei Yunj to do it in the laboratory quickly. The graduate students were jealous. When did Professor Si become so easy to talk to and even let someone do homework in the laboratory? End of this chapter. Chapter 1246. In fact, the graduate students even heard Professor Si praising Bei Yunj from the side and sighed. Yunj, you're quite fast at writing. I practiced writing self-reflection. Bei Yunj did not even look up. The graduate students were speechless. However, when they turned around, Professor Si seemed to be possessed as he looked at Bei Yunj with admiration. The way the two of them interacted was completely different from that of a teacher and a student. Father Pei, write faster. Si Qingyan lowered his voice. If you can't hand in your homework, that old bald donkey Huang Zui might carry explosives and die with me. He did not dare to provoke that lunatic. Bei Yunj glanced at Si Qingyan coldly and sped up his writing. Professor Huang Zui had always insisted on not forgetting his words, so unless it was a complicated and difficult topic, he had to hand in his manuscript. Okay, I'm done. After Bei Yunj finished writing, he immediately went to the physics building to hand in his homework. However, he did not expect to see a sad student at Professor Huang's door. Student, you're handing in your homework too? The boy asked in surprise. Bei Yunj was speechless. It's the deadline. Professor Huang asked for it to be handed in at 2:30 p.m. It's 2:31 p.m. now. He won't accept it. The boy sighed, but after glancing at Bei Yunj, he gradually understood. Someone actually forgot to hand in their homework like him. Bei Yunj held the homework in his hand and thought for a moment. However, he did not expect the boy to think that Bei Yunj was sad and lonely because he did not hand in his homework on time. The boy comforted him generously and passionately. Come, student, don't immerse yourself in sadness. You have to know that our great college entrance examination top scholar once said that the past is the past. Reminiscing is just an incompetent escape. Facing reality is the norm in life. Bei Yunj said. I said that. This was the content of the self-reflection letter Bei Yunj had written. According to Lu Yuanxi, it was hung in the exhibition board of Hengda High School and had not been torn down. The boy was speechless. You're the college entrance examination top scholar? The boy's eyes widened in disbelief. Bei Yunj lowered her cap. No wonder I haven't seen you before. Professor Huang has been very angry these days. You're the only one in class 1 who hasn't reported the progress of the big homework to him. The boy sighed and became even more excited. He was late in handing in his homework, but the father of the top scholar was actually the scapegoat? What kind of luck was this? Bei Yunj, not long after. Bei Yunj was just about to knock on the door when she saw Hai Ning walk out. She glanced at Bei Yunj indifferently and smiled. Are you here to hand in your homework? Professor Huang had already left. Also, Bei Yunj, you've been staying with Professor C for the past few days and didn't even hand in your homework. Professor Huang might not be so nice to you. After Hai Ning finished speaking, she took the recommendation form and walked out happily. Hearing this, before Bei Yunj could do anything, the boy beside her frowned and said, Student Pei, you should apologize to Professor Huang properly. Professor Huang and Professor C are famous for being sworn enemies. Be careful that he won't let you graduate. Bei Yunj. Hearing this, Bei Yunj couldn't help but think about the possibility of killing Si Qingyan and appeasing the professor of their department. Also, I heard that you and the student at the bottom of the class were grouped together. The boy hesitated. The amount of homework at Yun University was famous for being overwhelming. Also, Bei Yunj hadn't been in class these days. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't help others. Chapter 1247. She didn't know who had grouped them like this, but this was like roasting Bei Yunj on the fire. If the top scorer's father failed the subjects, it would be a joke. Bei Yunj looked at the manuscript in her hand. Suddenly, the boy saw the new homework given by Professor Huang and almost suffocated. No way? It's only the second week and the pressure on us is already so great? After the boy was shocked, Bei Yunj glanced at the message in his group chat and left. Only the boy was left in disbelief. In the office. Old Huang, the person standing outside just now was the top scorer of your department. Why are you so indifferent? A teacher teased. Huang Zui did not even look up, looking exceptionally cold. Yes, I don't know if she's from our department or Si Qingyan's. Then he sneered. It's hard for me to see the top scorer of the college entrance examination 2 weeks before school starts. Come on, you're the one who cherishes talents the most in the entire physics department. Another teacher chuckled. The top scorer of the college entrance examination this time won the first prize in the physics competition and suppressed a student who won an international award. Obviously, she's not a mediocre person. The computer department next door has Qing Zihuai and Jian Shi. Our physics department has been too ugly these few years. However, Hai Ning is also a promising talent. Hearing his colleague say this, Huang Zui did not say anything, but his gaze deepened. Outside the door, Hai Ning took the recommendation form from Huang Zui and got into her father's car with a smile on her face. Dad, I've already gotten Professor Huang's recommendation form. I'll be able to enter his laboratory soon. Hai Ning couldn't help but be excited as she spoke. Hai Wenqing laughed loudly. Really? Then Dad will take you to celebrate. Hai Wenqing brought Hai Ning to a high-end restaurant. After that, Hai Ning heard her father ask, Ning Ning, I heard that the eldest daughter of the Qin family is also in your department? The Qin family? I haven't met anyone with the surname Qin. Hai Ning did not think much of it. The eldest daughter of the Qin family is not surnamed Qin. Her name is Bei Yunj and she's the fourth heir of the Qin family. As soon as Hai Wenqing finished speaking, Hai Ning's expression suddenly changed. What did you say? Bei Yunj? You know her? Hai Wenqing asked. Hai Ning's expression didn't look too good. She pursed her lips. I'm her roommate, but we don't have a good relationship. Hearing this, Hai Wenqing immediately sneered and put the red wine glass back on the table. The people of the Qin family are all the same. Dad, you know the Qin family? Is it Qin Yu's Qin family? Hai Ning clenched her fists. She never thought that Bei Yunj would be the elder young miss of the Qin family. Of course I know him. Ever since the eldest son of the Qin family, Qin Luyin, inherited the company, the Qin family's power has been rising day by day. Hai Wencheng's face was gloomy, and he was still angry. In the past half a year I've given so many gifts and flattered so many people, but Qin Luyin still doesn't like our Hai family. Hai Ning's hand that was holding the knife and fork suddenly tightened, her heart feeling even more uncomfortable. Why is it Bei Yunj again? Why did this person have to deliberately go against her wherever she went? The next moment, Hai Wenqing glanced at Hai Ning and laughed. Fortunately, Ning, you're capable. Did Bei Yunj get a spot in Professor Huang's laboratory? Hai Ning's tone was cold. What right does she have to get a spot? Professor Huang doesn't like her either. Currently, I'm the only one who got a recommendation. End of chapter. Chapter 1248. Hearing this, Hai Wenqing laughed out loud. He was obviously very happy. Ning, what did you say? Professor Huang doesn't like her? For this group arrangement, Professor Huang placed her in the worst group. Hai Ning's expression was mocking. No matter how capable she is, can she lead a group of trash without learning anything? Ning, you've really made your father proud. Hai Wenqing couldn't help feeling smug as if he had vented his anger. Qin Luyin was so high and mighty and looked down on half-baked people like them, but in the end, his sister couldn't even compare to his daughter. Ning, I reckon that the Qin family's eldest daughter is the top scorer. The Qin family spent a lot of money to find a teacher to tutor her. Hai Wenqing chuckled. Otherwise, how can she compare to my Ning? When he said this, Hai Wenqing had forgotten how much money he had spent to get famous teachers from various college entrance examination organizations to tutor Hai Ning. In the laboratory. Isn't that guy surnamed Huang too stubborn? It's not easy for the physics department to have a treasure. Not only is he not providing for you, but he won't even delay your homework. After saying that angrily, Si Qingyan turned around and met Bei Yunj's cold gaze. Alright, he was more or less responsible for this matter. If it weren't for the fact that famous researchers have been getting into trouble recently, I would have let that Huang guy know who he's giving a hard time. Si Qingyan muttered. Recently, 4 or 5 major international researchers had met with mishaps. The higher-ups were afraid that the criminals would target them one day. Hence, during this period of time there had been very little news. They also did not let Bei Yunj participate in any activities. The people from the Falcon team and the Wolf team also protected Bei Yunj's safety day and night. Do the researchers who got into trouble recently all know each other? Bei Yunj suddenly asked. Si Qingyan exclaimed, Really? I haven't noticed, but they seem to be of the same age. I have to keep an eye on our old Master Zhong. Old Master Zhong is about the same age as them. Bei Yunj glanced at Si Qingyan indifferently, not very interested in this matter. Instead, Si Qingyan, I'll go out for a while. Bei Yunj seemed to have thought of something and suddenly stood up. What's wrong? Is there anything urgent? Yes. Bei Yunj responded, then picked up the phone on the table to make a call and walked out. Looking at Bei Yunj's back view, Si Qingyan could not help but sigh. A big shot was indeed a big shot. Even a phone call was so mysterious. However, outside the door, Bei Yunj leaned casually against the school building and played with the key that Huashidu had given her. Soon the call went through. The man's voice was low and pleasant. Yunyan? Brother, why didn't you come to find me? Bei Yunj tilted her head and asked lazily as she twirled the key with her index finger and kicked the pebbles on the road in boredom. The man didn't say anything at first. Then he said, Shall I pick you up for a meal tomorrow? So you're eating with someone else today? Bei Yunj licked her lips. She sounded as if she had caught an adulterer in the act. Huashidu couldn't help but laugh softly, but he answered seriously for his child's sake. I'll eat it myself. Bei Yunj could more or less hear the man's smile. The next moment she casually said something and hung up. Liar. Bei Yunj slowly spat out these 2 words with an inexplicable sense of irritation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1249. Bei Yunj could feel how much she cared about this person now. She knew that most of her uneasiness and suspicions were not because of what the man had done, but because of herself. The restlessness and uneasiness that were engraved in her bones were the same as Meng Ying's. She was the lunatic. Bei Yunj squatted down unconsciously and lowered her head. She casually brushed her slightly curly black hair and restrained the stubbornness in her eyes. However, her eyes were still slightly red and the hostility had just subsided. Bei Yunj walked back and naturally took a cigarette from the cigarette box on Si Qingyan's table. She had just lit the cigarette butt and was biting it casually. Unexpectedly, just as she turned her head, she suddenly heard a click and the camera flashed. With a cigarette between her fingers, Bei Yunj turned around and saw a round-faced girl holding a DSLR camera. She met her eyes. "Student, why did you take a picture of me?" Bei Yunj tilted her head and smiled at her, the cigarette between her fingers trembling casually. What the hell? Ever since she was reborn here she would be caught smoking. Especially Song Yao. She was a typical person who believed that smoking was bad for the body. The photography faculty girl's heart raced when she saw Bei Yunj tilting her head and flicking the cigarette ash. Actually, she had only seen this person smoking very flirtatiously, so she could not help but take a picture of her. She did not expect to be caught red-handed. Smoking is bad for your health. The photography faculty girl straightened her neck and did not realize that her voice was trembling. Besides, this is from Professor C's table? Cigarette. After all, although she was flirting, Bei Yunj did not look like someone to be trifled with. So, you're going to report me to him? Bei Yunj's eyes curled up slightly as she approached her and asked. Don't do this again. The photography faculty girl's heart was thumping because of the overly beautiful big boss in front of her. She could not take it anymore. Okay. Bei Yunj smirked and took another step forward. After extinguishing the cigarette in front of her, she looked up lazily. Then you must keep it a secret for me. After that, Bei Yunj walked out and threw the cigarette butt into the trash can. After Bei Yunj left, the photography girl almost screamed out loud. Wasn't this guy too flirtatious? She's so much more flirtatious than those stinky boys. However, in the next moment the girl realized that something was wrong. This big shot just casually threw the cigarette butt into the trash can? However, the trash bag had just been changed. Wasn't this clearly telling Professor C that someone had stolen his cigarettes? Before the girl could react, she saw Si Qingyan walking over from afar. She quickly picked up the cigarette and hid it behind her. Si Qingyan, who had just walked to the entrance, was shocked when he saw a female student bending over and standing up. What are you doing? Si Qingyan's eyelids twitched. The girl said, No, nothing, Professor C. I'm a reporter for the school newspaper. I just wanted to take some photos. Then hurry up and leave after you're done. Si Qingyan nodded and did not think too much about it. After the girl left, he glanced at the open pack of cigarettes and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Yo, Master Pei, you're so stressed out? Outside. Bei Yunj chewed on a piece of candy, glanced at the time and prepared to go to her faculty's class. In the laboratory. When they saw Bei Yunj walk in, everyone was shocked. Su Xianing chuckled. Student Pei, you're still willing to come back? P.S. Paranoid demon boss X gentle and refined scum, Master Du is on his way to pacify people. End of chapter. Chapter 1250. Looking for me? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and asked slowly. Only a ghost would look for you. Su Xianing rolled her eyes. When she was sitting in the second row, the boy beside her muttered softly, Then why are you still helping her with her homework? Su Xianing was speechless. Student Pei, our group is here. Suddenly someone waved at Bei Yunj. After confirming that there was no one else with the surname Pei in the class, Bei Yunj walked to the last row by the window. Professor Huang said that we will be in the same group from now on. The boy pushed up his glasses and looked a little introverted. Today is the second group assignment. Do you need me to do anything? Bei Yunj asked. It was already assigned during the first lesson. The boy was timid as if he was afraid that Bei Yunj would be angry. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. The first lesson? You've had class? Yes. Where did Si Qingyan find the class schedule from? You're the top scholar. Of course, we understand that you don't want to be in the same group as us. The girl beside her shrugged, her eyes filled with indignation. In the past, when she was in high school, she was also a top student in her class. However, in Yun University, she had suddenly become a bad student who was despised by everyone. Meng Wenwen could not help but vent her anger on Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj glanced at Meng Wenwen casually. Before Bei Yunj could speak, the boy hurriedly interrupted, We still need someone to summarize the group assignment. Meng Wenwen immediately looked up. I can do it. She glanced at Bei Yunj and said in a sarcastic tone, Student Pei has never attended a class before. Can she summarize it well? Let me do it. After secretly trampling on this famous top scholar of the college entrance examination, Meng Wanwen felt much better. She straightened her slender neck and looked as arrogant as a white swan. She did not believe that she was worse than Bai Yunj. The boys were all afraid that Bai Yunj would lose her temper and directly hit Meng Wanwen. Then there doesn't seem to be much work left except for discussing this topic with Professor Huang. Bai Yunj didn't even bother to look at Meng Wanwen. Instead, he asked indifferently, "What theme?" "That's the theme we've come up with." After the boy showed it to Bai Yunj, he asked carefully, "Bai Yunj, do you think it's okay?" Bai Yunj casually flipped through it. "It should work." When Meng Wanwen heard this, she couldn't help but laugh sarcastically. What class did she attend? Are you pretending to know when you don't? Since Student Pei thinks it's possible, then Student Pei will definitely be able to help Professor Huang pass the theme, right? Meng Wanwen deliberately exaggerated. Bai Yunj lazily closed the folder and picked it up casually. She sneered softly. "What else could it be? Do you think I'm playing with you?" After that, Bai Yunj walked out without looking back. "You." Meng Wanwen blushed. The others couldn't help but exclaim, "So cool." A exploded, our top scorer's father. Meng Wanwen noticed that the people around her were looking at Bai Yunj with admiration and felt even more indignant. In this class, she spent a lot of time interacting with her classmates. However, because she was grouped with the worst student, she was looked down upon and mocked behind her back. Why was Bai Yunj liked by so many people? Meng Wanwen bit her lip and sneered. Professor Huang didn't even pass the theme for Haining and the other students' homework. How could he pass it for her? How arrogant. Chapter 1251. Meng Wanwen was waiting for Bai Yunj to be slapped in the face. Thinking of this, her mood improved a lot. She continued to hum and do her homework. In the corridor, Bai Yunj had just arrived at the door when she bumped into Hai Ning and Chao Yingying, who had been rejected for the third time. Hai Ning's expression was not very good. Chao Yingying seemed to say something to Hai Ning, but she quickly noticed Bai Yunj. Chao Yingying smiled indifferently. "Bai Yunj, are you here to submit the theme? I advise you not to waste your time. Take it back and edit it. Professor Huang doesn't have a theme that has passed." "Really?" Bai Yunj's tone was perfunctory. Chao Yingying was so angry that her face turned green. Hai Ning pulled Chao Yingying aside and glanced at Bai Yunj. "Professor Huang is working on a project. He's not in a good mood." "Got it." Bai Yunj hummed in response and pushed the door open. Hai Ning, look at her. She's too arrogant. If I missed so many of Professor Huang's classes, I would be too ashamed to show up in front of him. Chao Yingying sneered. She's the top scorer. She always thinks that she has special treatment. Hai Ning said calmly and left with the third draft. In the laboratory, the blackboard behind him was densely packed with research data and ideas. The other students were already used to this and could not understand what Professor Huang was writing. "Professor Huang, I'm here to review the theme for you." Bai Yunj knocked on the door and glanced at the blackboard. Finally, her eyes fell on the white-haired old man. "What do you want to see?" "No." Huang Zui did not even raise his head. He was very cold. If it were any other student, they would have been scared half to death and would have started to reflect on what they had done wrong. Who knew? The next moment, the old man at the door seemed to have been waiting for this sentence. "Then I'll take it that you have passed." Huang Zui, the other students, where did this immortal come from? This guy was really wild. Huang Zui finally raised his head with a straight face. However, it was not difficult to hear the anger in his voice. "Give it to me." Bai Yunj chuckled softly and handed the theme to Huang Zui. A few minutes later, the other graduate students were looking at each other, looking forward to the conversation between Professor Huang and this big boss. Unexpectedly, Huang Zui frowned and sneered. "Is this the standard of the college entrance examination's top scholar?" Compared to Hai Ning's group was simply too far. Huang Zui said expressionlessly, "Why don't you consider changing your major? Computer science suits you quite well." After that, Huang Zui continued to study the article. He wanted to see what was wrong with his project idea. The graduate students in the laboratory were a bit. At first, he thought that Bai Yunj was a big boss. He did not expect Professor Huang to persuade her to transfer to another faculty. Bai Yunj raised an eyebrow and glanced at the theme their team had chosen. She licked the corners of her red lips and smiled. "This theme is not bad. Professor, hasn't the Physics Institute in our nation been researching this direction for the past 2 years?" Hearing this, Huang Zui stopped writing. He did not expect Pei Yunj to know this. Bei Yunj casually glanced at Meng Wenwen's manuscript. Finally, she gave Huang Zui an overview of a different direction. Huang Zui's expression gradually improved. He could not help but look at Bei Yunj again. After a while, Huang Zui snorted. Not bad. The college entrance examination champion is something. Bei Yunj casually smiled and glanced at the blackboard. Professor, you wrote something wrong on the blackboard. Chapter 1252. What nonsense are you talking about? Huang Zui froze and reprimanded her. Bei Yunj broke a piece of chalk and walked towards the blackboard. She glanced at Huang Zui's writing process and erased most of it before writing down the result. Seeing this, Huang Zui was about to curse when he saw Bei Yunj's answer. His pupils shrank. This was actually the same result that his senior brother had sent him. His senior took 3 days to calculate this result. How long did Bei Yunj take to read the questions in the laboratory? Huang Zui was stunned. When the other graduate students saw Bei Yunj erasing Huang Zui's work, their scalps went numb. What was wrong with this junior? Why was she plucking the hair from a tiger's butt? Junior, apologize, the senior said to Bei Yunj in a low voice. In fact, even she was scared. In the past, there was a student who accidentally tore Huang Zui's paper when he was playing with others, and he was thrown out of the laboratory. The paper was transferred to another supervisor. However, this junior was even more daring. She erased Huang Zui's work in front of him. Get out! Huang Zui said in a low voice. The graduate students were scared when they heard this. Would the professor fight with the students? However, under the gaze of the professor, the graduate students immediately ran away. How did you calculate this? Huang Zui could not help but ask. Was this the standard of a first-year student? Bei Yunj frowned. Do I need to calculate this? In his previous life, Meng Liang was an outstanding physicist who was internationally renowned. Bei Yunj had been in Meng Liang's laboratory since she was young. She started helping Meng Liang with projects when she was 10 years old. Huang Zui was speechless. Was he being mocked by a student? Bei Yunj glanced at the mistakes in Huang Zui's paper and corrected a few of them. This made Huang Zui more and more silent. He even started to doubt his own standard. Seeing this, Bei Yunj was silent for a moment before she asked tentatively, Professor, do you understand? Huang Zui was speechless. There was an extremely awkward atmosphere in the air. When Bei Yunj was talking, Huang Zui was still thinking about life, so he didn't hear much. Can you tell me more? Huang Zui coughed softly. Bei Yunj didn't think much of it and repeated the story to Huang Zui. After Huang Zui understood, his feelings became even more complicated. He looked up at Bei Yunj. Where did you learn all this? Bei Yunj casually came up with an excuse. My brother taught me. Huang Zui, was her brother a scientific genius? Bei Yunj asked again, Professor, does that mean I've passed this time's assignment? After Huang Zui came back to his senses, he took a deep breath and said, Nothing in the folder is acceptable. Change it according to what you just said. All right. Bei Yunj's lips curved. On the other hand, the graduate student outside bumped into Hai Ning, who wanted to ask Professor Huang a question. Junior sister Hai Ning, don't go. This time the professor must be angry. You might get scolded if you go. Hai Ning's eyes flashed with a strange light. She said casually, What's wrong? My roommate seems to be in there too. The graduate student was shocked. She's your roommate? She's too bold. Do you know what she did? She actually erased Professor Huang's project on the blackboard. Professor Huang was so angry that he kicked us out and left her alone to be scolded. Chapter 1253. Hai Ning froze when she heard this. She didn't expect Bei Yunj to be so daring. Then, a mocking look flashed in her eyes and the corners of her mouth curved slightly. Bei Yunj really thought too highly of herself. In that case, I'd better go back first, Hai Ning said. The other graduate students nodded. Hurry up and go back. Otherwise, if Professor Huang gets angry later, we'll all be in trouble. With a smile on her face, Hai Ning quickly left with a brisk pace. In the afternoon, when the other groups were about to leave, Bei Yunj's group was still waiting for Bei Yunj to come back. Meng Wenwen sneered. She definitely won't come back if she didn't pass the draft. What are you waiting for? Meng Wenwen, don't you think your attitude towards Bei Yunj is very bad? Another girl frowned. Meng Wanwen sneered and glanced at her roommate. What's wrong? She's the top scorer of the college entrance examination. Do I have to treat her well? If you want to treat her well, go ahead. All right, I don't have time to wait for her. Since you're not leaving, I'll go first. After that, Meng Wanwen picked up her bag and left. This scene made the other group members angry, but they could only endure it. They looked at each other and wondered if Bai Yunj would come back. Suddenly they saw Bai Yunj come back. Bai Yunj, did our group's theme not? The others were too embarrassed to ask. They were more or less afraid of hurting Bai Yunj's confidence. However, Bai Yunj glanced at them and said casually, "It passed, but the professor wants to change it." I knew it. It's okay. Even if it didn't pass. Halfway through her sentence, the girl suddenly sobered up and looked up at Bai Yunj. Wait, what? Passed? Huang Zui actually had someone who passed the draft? What kind of perverted big boss could receive this treatment? Yes. Bai Yunj found some lotion and wiped her hands. She glanced at them casually. Don't you want to pass it? The group members, they didn't think about it. How much does the professor want to change it? They suppressed their excitement and looked at Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj, change it all. The group members, ? Then how did this draft pass it? Feeling everyone's silence, Bai Yunj said, let's talk tomorrow. Rest early. Good. Everyone looked at Bai Yunj's back and felt that this big boss's temper was not as bad as they had imagined. In the dormitory, Meng Wanwen was still putting on a facial mask. Hearing Chao Yingying's gossip, she couldn't help but laugh. Really? She really dared to erase Professor Huang's blackboard. Wouldn't Professor Huang hate her to death? Of Bai Yunj. After saying that, Meng Wanwen seemed to have thought of something. She bit her lip and immediately took out a box of skincare products from the drawer. She put down her pride and asked, Yingying, can you help me give this box of skincare products to Haining? Chao Yingying was surprised. She could tell that this box of skincare products cost at least 7,000 to 8,000 yuan. What are you doing? I want to change groups. I don't want to be in the same group as those people, especially Bai Yunj, Meng Wanwen said. Chao Yingying smiled and took the skincare products. Actually, Haining's skincare products are very expensive. She doesn't need this set. But I can help you talk to him. Chapter 1254. Meng Wanwen immediately understood. Yingying, I'll give you this set then. Thank you, Wanwen. Chao Yingying returned to the dormitory with the set of 7,000 to 8,000 yuan worth of skincare products. Haining frowned when she heard her voice. Can't you keep your voice down? You didn't even do the group homework. I was the only one correcting it. Chao Yingying immediately stopped smiling and went up to Haining. Ningning, you know that I tried my best. The only reason why the talented girl from Hai University could do it personally was because the entire group's content was not up to standard. Haining did not say anything. Chao Yingying continued probing. Ningning, why don't we change the group member? What do you think about Meng Wanwen joining our group? Haining was annoyed, so she said sarcastically, Meng Wanwen? The one who can't do anything? What's she doing here? Is she just a decoration like you? Chao Yingying's smile froze. An idea suddenly came to her mind. She said carefully, but, Ningning, isn't this a good opportunity to replace Su Xianing? She hasn't cooperated with us before. Haining's eyes flashed. Although Su Xianing's ability was much better than Chao Yingying's, she felt disgusted when she thought about Su Xianing's good relationship with Bai Yunj. Whatever. Haining said casually. Great. I'll tell Meng Wanwen immediately. After this assignment is over, I'll ask her to change groups. Chao Yingying smiled even more brightly. The next day, Bai Yunj was chewing on a bag of soy milk when she heard Meng Wanwen say angrily, why can we change it just because she says so? At this moment, everyone's eyes were on Bai Yunj. Obviously, they knew who Meng Wanwen was talking about. It's not Bai Yunj who said to change it, it's Professor Huang who said, before the boy who wanted to smooth things over could finish, Meng Wanwen sneered. I don't agree. Professor Huang passed it just because of a few words from her? What a joke. Su Xianing suddenly chuckled. Don't tell me you think Professor Huang is interested in your manuscript? Meng Wanwen's face turned green and red. She did think so. After all, she was the one who chose the theme. She didn't believe that it was Bai Yunj's credit for getting the draft approved. Yunj? The other team members were afraid that Bai Yunj would be angry. It's up to you whether to change it or not. Bai Yunj sipped on her soy milk, leaned back in her chair lazily and flipped through the documents. Hearing this, the others heaved a sigh of relief. After some discussion, they still decided to change only half of it. In this way, Bei Yunji and Meng Wanwen would be given face. If you want to change something, you have to at least get my approval. I am the team leader, Meng Wanwen said domineeringly. At this moment, Bei Yunji had already finished drinking the soy milk. After throwing the bag accurately into the trash can, he suddenly dragged a chair over from the side with one hand. The sound of friction from the rolling ground made people tremble in fear. Bei Yunji threw the chair in front of Meng Wanwen, and the chair hit Meng Wanwen's desk. Meng Wanwen was so frightened that her expression changed immediately. Bei Yunji sat on the chair with her long legs and suddenly reached out to grab her collar. This caused Meng Wanwen to be lifted up and she had no choice but to bow forward. Meng Wanwen met Bei Yunji's cold gaze and shivered after seeing the faint smile in her eyes. I've spoiled you, huh? It was only now that Meng Wanwen suddenly woke up. Cold sweat broke out on her back as she remembered that when school had just started, it was rumored that this college entrance examination top scholar used to fight very fiercely. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.